on YouTube side. Super close to enlisting. You have fun with that, bro. There we go. Now the stream is working on YouTube. Boom. They're smacking them likes. I like it. Go ahead and... Music is fire. Thank you. It's AI. Yeah, what's up, dude?
Not much, dude.
I'm gonna play this one because this one was really good.
What's good, brother?
Yo, what's up, prison? I think I remember talking to you before. You're Orthodox, right?
Yes, sir.
Nice. It sounds like I'm at an Orthodox church in the Matrix. Yes, synthwave is a baptized aesthetic. So, for real.
What diocese are you with?
Antioch, Metropolitan.
Base.
Yeah. Under Metropolitan Saba.
Yo, is this how Jay Dyer kind of sets up his lives too? Is with this music and style?
Yeah, this is actually something that I did back when I was a Protestant a little bit, with and then some of my gaming channels. I've always loved this style, and you know, now that I have like a following, I thought that I'd probably just incorporate it into this and just keep it going. You know what I'm saying? Oh, LMAO, yeah. Voice of Reason text as an account name is wild. Wait, what? Voice of Reason texts? Oh, yo, bro. Yeah, that's a crazy name. Anybody in here need a catechist?
Pretty plump.
Hell nah, bro. That's plump. If you don't get that reference, then you're a loser. For reals. Yeah, Voice of Reason is cooked. It's so Jover for that man. Hey, if anybody in here is in Jim Bob's server on Discord, you should share this live on TikTok and YouTube. Like one of my favorite mods, Mexadox. You know, I know that he could do it, right? Oh, he was down bad, Michael. He was gooning. Know what I'm saying? A little bit of a goonster. Publicly outed as a goonster. It's upsetting. But hey, pray for him. Because if you don't pray for him, then he may never get better. So, Iron Inquisitor is our last hope.
Bryce, I think half the likes on the screen were me today.
Oh, he's almost got 7K already.
Yeah, it was me.
Damn.
Nah, bro. I used my I've got like a massage gun. I put it on
You're
the back
weird.
I put it on the back of my finger, and it was like turbo clicking.
Yo, are you guys able to hear the guests right now? Because like my mixer is not picking anything up. I'm gonna make sure that's working. Hold on. Yeah, we can. Okay, I'm gonna hit the button anyway just to be safe because it says I'm not picking nothing up. There we go.
Basil, what's weird about that? I was just being innovative.
Lewis.
Bro, because I was...
Yeah,
bro,
Lewis, come up here and give me an Arian argument. Actually, I have completed my studying for the debate notes. Biblically, metaphysically, church history. I have a 42 slide presentation for Andrew on August 1st.
Bro, schoolboy, because my finger almost fell off from spamming the like button, and you're over here cheating.
Yeah, I 100% cheated.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, guys, do you know the debate with Andrew Wilson and that dumb chick?
Yeah.
So get this, right? I have insider knowledge about her because my wife is in an Orthodox moms group on Facebook, and she's in there.
Oh no!
Like one of those lockdown ones where you can't like see anything. And she sent me a bunch of screenshots of her coping hard about that debate that she had, and it was really funny.
That was pretty funny.
She was pissed. I'll show him here soon. But what's up, Lewis?
What's up?
What's up, Lewis?
Yeah, man. I kind of wanted to actually show you a little bit here. I don't want to show too much, obviously, just in case if he comes in here. I don't think he will though. He doesn't use TikTok like that.
Uh-huh.
But, and I wanted to show you what I got going for the debate. All right. Boom. So it's basically just why the Orthodox Trinity is biblically, historically, and metaphysically accurate. And it starts off by describing our position, and then a bunch of biblical accounts, basically, of different situations of what Jesus does, St. Paul, St. Peter, St. John in the Revelation. The Holy Spirit is God and distinct from the Father and the Son, all of the verses for that. And then now I will show church history. The fathers of the first few centuries did not subscribe to Andrew's view. Rather, they represent my view much more clearly, and I'll show that. Saint Ignatius. I know you can't see this. Hold on one second. I have my stuff turned on dark mode, so it's like not showing anything. Boom. Yeah. So we got this. Boom. Boom. Right. Saint Irenaeus, Saint Justin Martyr, Saint Theophilus of Antioch, Saint Hippolytus of Rome. Even the heretics disagree, like Origen and Tertullian, talking about the Council of Antioch in 264, actually condemning adoptionism, which is kind of more what he holds to.
Yep.
Archaeology, showing Jesus Christ as God on the Megiddo mosaic in 230 AD.
Yep.
Archaeology of the picture of Jesus on the cross, and it says Alexamenos worships his God in 200 AD. It was making fun of Jesus. Archaeology, this is also the Frankfurt silver inscription 200 AD, doing the thrice holy hymn, which is the Trinity.
That's quite a new discovery, by the way.
Yeah. Other heresies that were already condemned by this point: Noetus, obviously believing that Jesus was the Father, condemned by Saint Irenaeus and Hippolytus. Marcion, believing that the God of the Old Testament was a different God than the New Testament because Jesus was kind, and the Yahweh of the Old Testament was not, showing that he even believed that Jesus was God. And the Jewish monolithic understanding of God being refuted by people like Saint Epiphanius and stuff like that.
Yep.
This is a major problem for Andrew because the closest you can get is Arius. Arius believes that there was a similar substance but not the same, and believed that he was divine but was creature with a lesser nature. And the reason it's problematic because it actually shows Arius's belief was an innovation, because none of the fathers that represented believed this position. So the church's consensus was against this position prior to Nicaea, which shows that the belief that Jesus was created is actually the innovation, not the Trinitarian view. And then I have multiple metaphysical arguments here, like basically just trying to justify the Trinity being one God. And then describing the three types of arguments I'm going to provide in my cross-examination: the divine atonement argument, the property of love argument, and the wisdom and power argument. Those are metaphysical arguments. I'm not going to reveal that now, though. But I have developed multiple syllogisms that's going to, the wisdom and power argument. Basically, basically how, like, you know how the New Testament consistently calls Christ the wisdom and the power of God, and even they'll concede to that.
Yep.
Right. So basically, the argument is making it to where God is composite in his view, or a polytheistic. Because basically, if you're saying that he's the wisdom and the power of God, if he's not the same substance as the Father, then that means that either God is made up of two substances, or God actually doesn't truly possess any of these properties. Rather, he possesses them in a creature, meaning that prior to the creatures and creation, he doesn't possess any of those properties. Right. That's pretty much the.
Yeah, he's going to twist all of that, because in First Corinthians 1:24, when it calls Christ the wisdom and power of God, he's going to say, well, what it means by that is that God's wisdom's unveiled in the person of Christ, or that God works through Christ, and so his power is through, like his works, his power through the Son. Mm-hmm. That's what he's going to say.
Yeah, I'm excited for this debate a lot. It's 43 slides total for this, but I'm going to blast through them pretty quickly.
Yes, it's going to be good. Bro,
Wait,
that Q&A,
Lewis.
bro, I can't wait to come up for the Q&A. You don't understand, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to...
Wi-Fi Gospel is basically just going to hold an eternal Q&A. So pretty much it's just going to be until people stop trying to come up. Me and Andrew both agreed to that.
Oh, wow. So I'm going to keep
Yo,
coming up.
Bryce, you're going to get 50 questions from Metaphysics Mike.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure Metaphysics Mike's going to come over and he's say, so how can he be God if he doesn't possess all of the hypostatic properties of the Father? It's literally
Hey,
what
Lewis,
Yeah.
have you read Blessed Theophilact's, what's it called, commentaries?
Nope.
So you know how the Arians will make an argument of the Logos being a tool of the Father?
Yeah.
So Blessed Theophylact, he says in his commentary on John 1:1, he talks about that.
Mhm.
He gives an analogy of a painter. So the painter would represent the Father, and then the brush would represent the Logos, right? The
Uh-huh.
tool that the Father uses. Now,
Yeah.
what Blessed Theophylact says is that if you say that the Logos is just a tool, then you have to say that the creation is then greater than the Logos because the painting is greater than the tool used for the painting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that follows.
Hey, Lewis,
But
take a look at this real quick. Do you see
Yep.
this repository? Can you tell me any of them that I possibly am missing?
okay, I'm just trying to read that. I mean, seems
I think
Seems
I
good.
think I don't need any more than that, right?
yeah, you wouldn't. No. Do you know what? If you want right now on the stream, let me give you some verses, just from the top of my head, and it would be good for the viewers to see this as well. If you can open up also Bible Gateway so that they can see the actual verses themselves, because it's going to be good now.
Ooh, dark mode needs to come back on. Flashbang. Hold on.
Yeah. Bring up Ezekiel 43, verse 2.
Muhammad Faraks wants to come up. Do you want to do that first?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
What's up, my guys?
What's up, bro?
What's up?
So, you guys would agree there's no such thing as like original Torah, right?
Original Torah? I mean, we believe we have the original Torah.
No, I mean like there's no such thing as the Hebrew Torah.
What? Where'd you get that from?
No, like the Septuagint, right? Being one of like the earliest, right? And being like the translation.
So we use the Septuagint because it's the earliest that we have. That doesn't mean that the very first. That
course not.
doesn't mean that Moses wrote in Greek.
You know, I'm not saying that. I'm saying is that when the Septuagint translates, for example, by those 72 scholars, right? They were translating from a Hebrew script, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying technically here is that we have no such thing as that from that Hebrew. We only have the Septuagint being the earliest.
Okay, but we also have the Latin Vulgate, which Jerome translates from the Hebrew script, a Proto-Masoretic text, so a text that comes.
Is
prior
that
to
before the Septuagint?
No, but that doesn't matter. I'm just showing you another example.
But there
of
is a
an
Hebrew
early-
text.
Yeah,
fuck
we
off,
do.
man.
We do.
Fuck you
We
guys.
do. Okay. See.
I love bringing him up here, bro. He's like the easiest clip farm on the planet. All right, what's
He's the best.
Yeah, what's Ezekiel for? He's like just
Yeah,
he's
Ezekiel.
always begging for those. Hey guys, I'm coming up here to give you a free clip. Jesus is not God. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you could put it on screen, because I want chat to be able to see this as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Verse 2. Then put a comma.
Hold on. Yeah, but do
Then
semicolon.
we're gonna do. Yeah, or semicolon. Yeah. Then we're gonna do Isaiah 48:12 and Daniel 7 verses 9 to 10 and Revelation 1 verses 14 to 18. There we go.
All right, let me.
All right, so
hold on one second. Let me.
Let's go through this systematically.
Let me put
Yeah.
this in KJV.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Just so everyone's focusing, yeah. And behold, the glory of God of Israel came from the way of the east. Okay, just like Christ will come from the east. His voice was like the sound of many waters, and the earth shone with his glory. Now, remember that point. His voice was the sound of many waters. Now let's go to Isaiah 48:12. Listen to me, O Jacob and Israel, my called. I am he, I am the first, I am also the last. This is God speaking here, Yahweh. And he says, I am the first, I am also the last. Okay, now Daniel 7. Okay, I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. The Ancient of Days here is God. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, and its wheels a burning fire. Okay, now we don't need to worry about verse 10. Notice the imagery in the Old Testament here. We have God having the voice of many waters. We have God having hair like pure wool, and wool is white, and having a fiery flame for his throne. And then we also have God saying he's the first and the last. Well, now let's see what Revelation does with this in the New Testament.
And now we know Jesus was black. All right.
Exactly. Okay. His head, so we don't know right now who it's talking about, but we're going to see. It's going to tell us. His head and hair were white like wool, as white as snow. Okay. That's similar to the description in Daniel 7. And his eyes like a flame of fire. Again, Daniel 7. His feet were like fine brass, as if refined in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Wow, that's like Ezekiel 43, the sound of many waters. He had in his right hand 7 stars, and out his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword, and his countenance was like the sun shining in its strength. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead, but he laid his right hand on me, saying to me, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. Wait, Isaiah 48. But then we carry on. I am he who lives and was unalived, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And I have the keys of Hades and death.
But
Wow.
wait,
So-
silly Trinitarian. You see, in verse 17, when it says, I am the first and the last, that's referring to the Father. And in verse 18, that's Jesus speaking.
Yeah,
One
bro,
speech.
because randomly, he just talks about the Father and then just switches back to himself type stuff.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
Hey, wait till they hit you with that's just saying he's the first and last Adam.
No, but seriously, this is a slam dunk. It's literally Yahweh, the descriptions of Yahweh in the Old Testament being applied to Christ, and then Christ saying, I'm the first and the last. And then you know it's Christ because then he says, I was unalive, but I am alive forevermore. So yeah, maybe you should add that to the list as well.
I have that on my, I have this argument actually in my slides.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I have it this, and then I have Isaiah 48:12 as the,
Yeah.
and then I think I have Daniel 7 in there. I didn't have
Yeah,
Ezekiel.
you can add Ezekiel as well because it adds more to
I
show.
have the argument right here, not that from that specific verse, but I do have the argument that you gave me that one day, where it was like 4 different verses that shows to make way for the coming of the Lord.
Yeah.
From John the Baptist,
Yeah.
basically showing that he's literally admitting that God is coming, like to come to earth.
Yeah. By the way, in all four gospels actually start out that way. In Matthew 2 and Luke 2, they both quote that prophecy, and in Mark 1 they quote it, and in John 1 it's quoted. All the gospel writers present Jesus as Yahweh immediately. It's as if they want to show, okay, here is who Jesus is, and this is how the rest of the book should be understood by this premise, that Jesus is Yahweh. So any other verse you try to use to falsify Jesus being God, that means you're misinterpreting that verse, and you should read it in light of what the prologue says, because the prologue determines how you should read the rest of the text.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Lewis, I have speaking of that, I have Metaphysics Mike completely stumbling on Luke 1:74 through 76.
I remember you brought that argument before. I remember you mentioned it to me.
Yeah, where Zacharias literally says that John the Baptist, like the person who comes to the face of John the Baptist is going to be the highest.
Yep. Now these guys are all cult masters. By the way, Bryce, I'm going to show you something. I'm telling you all of this while chilling on the balcony.
Yep. Hell yeah, man.
I'm not in England right now.
You still on vacation?
Yeah, I'm in a different country now. Now I'm in Albania because one of my cousins are getting married soon.
Oh, nice. That's legit. I got a couple things that I saved on TikTok that I need to address.
Oh yeah, I've been
Actually,
seeing Atheists today. He's been manifesting.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I made that video freaking refuting his argument. Now he's just going bonkers. Alrighty. I like to save things, my favorites, so that I can react to them sometimes now. And our
Bryce, I'll be back
favorite,
here in a minute.
yeah, you're good. Our favorite goofball, reconstructionist, made an argument apparently against the Orthodox Church. Very specific.
The Orthodox Church
Let's take a look.
is not the true church. If you're following orthodoxy and you believe that you are the true church, then you suffer from something called the Orthodox dilemma.
The Orthodox dilemma, guys. Are you guys ready
This
for
should
this?
be right. This should be good.
The Orthodox dilemma. Bryce, would you jump off the tallest building on earth or eat a bagel with cream cheese? Do I survive if I jump off the tallest building? Like, do I get, like,
with cream cheese?
well, no. I do that, but like, if it's implying though that I just get to do that and then I just land completely safe, I'd definitely do that first. If it was a guarantee that I'd be okay, I'd probably do that.
Bro, I'm taking that. I'm taking that bagel.
The Orthodox Church is not the true church. What I'm referring to is that they're not the only small C church, yet they will claim that they are. And in order for us Protestants to have the fullness of the faith found in the big C church, we must join their only true small C church.
That's presupposing that we're a small C church. We believe that the Orthodox Church is the only big C church, actually.
Is the body of Christ.
It literally is the body of Christ. That's ridiculous.
Israel. Yep.
3 small C churches.
This introduces the Orthodox dilemma.
Rumi's on that freaking Shamoon vibe right now with the apostolic faiths.
If you're Orthodox, you still affirm the scriptures, even where it says, these are the signs that will accompany those that have belief. But the problem for the Orthodox is that we see those signs listed out in scriptures in the Protestant churches. We see people having
That's anecdotal.
visions, dreaming dreams, healing the sick, the blind, the deaf, the mute, and unless the Orthodox...
What if those signs are seen in other religions, though?
I was gonna say the Hindus have stuff like that.
Yeah, the Hindus are healing people. Muslims do exorcisms. So, I think the Shias do that a lot, actually. So, I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah, they call it urukia. When they do exorcism, they call it urukia.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if there's these types of signs that are occurring in other faiths, then this doesn't actually show whether or not something's true, just because of the fact that there's miracles occurring in other faiths or even other denominations. The same thing applies.
is willing to say that that authority came from the devil and not from the divine, then you must yield that these are in fact true believers. And that's just the tip of the iceberg concerning the dilemma. It goes something like this in a formal way. The gifts of the Holy Spirit are reserved for the church. The church is reserved for true believers. Protestants exhibit the gifts.
Hold on.
The gifts of...
Now, there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit, and there are varieties of ministries and the same Lord. There are varieties of effects, but the same God, who works all things in all persons. But no one is given the manifestation of the Spirit to the common good, for to one given as a word of wisdom. I can't, to the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit. Okay.
the Holy Spirit are reserved for the church.
That doesn't say that. What you just said is not what just appeared on that screen.
The church is reserved for true believers.
He's strawmanning us because
Protestants
we
exhibit the gifts of
we literally say that like we know where the Holy Spirit is, we don't know where he isn't.
the Holy Spirit. Therefore, Protestants must be a part of the true church. But if we're
Miracles equals true church. Absolute cinema. That's not how that's not how that works. Right? Because like what if there's like something that affirms, like, for example, maybe the Holy Spirit is the only true God. Right? What if somebody were to affirm something like that and they believe, like the Montanists, did they have the gifts of the Spirit in what, the 3rd century or earlier? I think it was the 2nd century actually. Where they believed they were receiving the gifts of the Holy Spirit because they were presenting the same signs. But they also believed they were receiving prophecies from that same quote unquote spirit. You don't think the devil is capable of faking gifts? You don't think that's possible? The Church of Satan gives to the poor. I mean, that doesn't actually determine anything to be the case. That's ridiculous. Like the distinction is the assurance of whether or not it's actually the Holy Spirit or not. And if you're in a church where it's entirely personal, you personally believe, obviously, that it's the Holy Spirit. That's the reason why the Orthodox Church has like the sealing of the Holy Ghost. That's the reason why the regeneration matters. Bruh.
We're in different buildings, then how are we unified? Through the truth of the gospel.
What is the truth of the gospel? It's funny too, because every time that like I ask him like this specific situation, I'm like, what is the gospel? Like, what is the true gospel? He just starts naming what he thinks it is. Like he just starts saying what he thinks the true gospel is. But then somebody else could come up with like an entirely different like method in which the truth of the gospel happens. So that does not make sense. That's not how that works. You have to actually have a historical approach to what the truth of the gospel is. And if you're a Protestant, if you appeal to the church that existed in the first millennia to determine that gospel, why are you not a part of that church? Because you're not. They don't teach what you teach. And the only people that may have a chance at trying to argue for something like that would be like the Lutherans. And they can't even do that because they still stray away at multiple different gospels, or at multiple different sections of the gospel. So that doesn't work.
And this is why the gates of hell have not prevailed against the church. Not because we're all confined to one building, but because we all affirm Jesus as Messiah, whether Protestant.
Notice he didn't say God, by the way. Now he's including those sects of Christianity that don't even think he's God. Remember when he had that big controversy because he was affirming like oneness Pentecostals and modalists? That they also have the truth of the gospel as well? And now he's just saying you have to believe that Jesus is the Messiah. It's insane.
Orthodox or Catholic, you cannot call yourself a follower of Christ if you do not affirm Christ as Messiah and accept that truth into your heart. And it also reveals.
It's funny too because he's completely freaking Judaizing. Like this is a complete Judaization. Saying that we only have to affirm that Jesus is the Messiah is Judaizing. I don't even think he realizes that it's Judaizing either. Because that's the distinction between the Jews and us. Is affirming if he's only the Messiah, right? Like that's something that the Jews expected. That would be considered Judaizing.
One sacred truth. The church is spiritual. It's not physical. If you are Orthodox.
It's literally both. Jesus was spiritual and physical. The body of Christ represents his totality of himself. It is spiritual and it's physical. You can't separate those things. Christ's two natures weren't separate.
Watching this, I urge you not to take offense. I believe you are my brother and sister in Christ.
That makes me feel so much better, Reconstructionist. Thank you. Thank you for still saying that you think I'm a brother in Christ. Thank you so much. That makes me feel so much better.
And as a response to that, I'll tell you to repent of your heresies.
Exactly. Thank you for calling me a brother in Christ, but you are a heretic. Like, you see how that works? You don't think freaking Arius went to Nicaea and was like, "We're all brothers in Christ"? You think Saint Nicholas took that?
Yeah, even Eunomius said like what he's saying doesn't have any impact on the deity of the Son or the Spirit.
He used to say that you had to confess that Jesus was God too. Now he's backtracking to try and include the Jews now. You only have to affirm that he's the Messiah.
The same thing about me. I believe that.
Antonio, if you want to join, man, you can join on the TikTok link. I can paste it if you'd like. Let me do this. There. If you want to join the live, I see you on the YouTube chat. If you want to join, you can come join on that link.
That we are part of the same
I'll be
church,
letting people up in
and I
just a
only
second.
hope that you believe the same thing about me, but ultimately I believe that at the end of the day, when we see each other in Christ, when we see each other glorified, when we see each other in heaven, neither one of us will care about this.
Yeah, I'm not going to address that because I don't determine people's salvation, but it's very bold of you to assume that. It's very bold of you to assume that we're going to end up in the same place, my friend.
And behold, he will make all things new. That's it.
That's it. Follow and like for more. Brother. Oh my gosh. Reconstructionists just cannot stop having L opinions on things, bro. Insane. What's up, Isaiah?
God bless, guys. How are you?
Doing good. What's up, Learning Orthodoxy? How you doing?
Good, man. I'm so, you know, man, this dude, you know, it's funny, and I just gotta say my piece. I'll let Isaiah go, but like that Reconstructionist guy, like he literally tries to have this, like, a ecumenist, like, way of thinking, like, oh, we're all one God if we all believe in the same, but yet the Orthodox, especially he went on to my lives, he went on a couple of other people's lives trying to spew that same nonsense, right? And he gets cooked, right? So now, for what I see, it looks like he's going after all Orthodox Christians now.
That's usually what happens. I mean, you can see that in people like Redeemed Zoomer. Same thing happened to him. He got cooked by Jay Dyer, and now he's freaking just losing his mind. Well, he's not doing it anymore, thankfully. But that's what he was doing.
It's like,
He was
I'm
like
mad
just
at
slandering
you, so I'm gonna
Orthodoxy
attack your
constantly.
faith.
No.
Yeah.
What's up, Isaiah? How you doing?
Yo, what's going on? How are you?
Doing good, man. What's going on?
I disagree with the first one.
Okay. Why is that?
Just believe in the Old Testament.
Do you just believe in the Old Testament, or are you Jew?
I don't believe in the Old Talmud, no. Just the Old Testament.
So just the Old Testament. So what? You're an Orthodox Jew?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I said, so you're an Orthodox Jew?
And I don't have a term for that, but I just believe in the Old Testament.
Okay. Hey, I just want to be 100% honest with you, Lewis. If you want to talk to this guy, you can. I still have never actually spoke.
I can speak for a bit. Yeah, that's fine.
So I'll
So
let you go.
Isaiah,
Yeah, so
so when you say you believe in the Old Testament, like what do you believe? Do you believe God's unipersonal?
I believe that Yahweh is the only true God.
I do as well, by the way, just letting you know. And
That Jesus Christ is the only true God.
yeah, but according to you, there is no mentioning of Jesus. So telling me you only believe in the Old Testament doesn't tell me much.
telling
That's
you-
like a Hindu coming up and saying, I only believe in my scripture. Okay.
Okay. So what am I supposed to say? I told you I don't believe in the Talmud. I don't believe in the oral tradition of the Jews.
Okay, why do you not believe in the New Testament?
Because the Messiah didn't come yet.
Okay. Can I prove to you that he must have came?
Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, let me prove to you that the Messiah is God according to the Old Testament.
Messiah is God.
Can you open up Isaiah 9:6, please?
Open it in the Septuagint.
Yeah, but that's going to prove my point. because, and by the way, do you want to stick to the Septuagint? Are you sure? Because this is what you guys do. You jump from Septuagint to Masoretic. If you want, I can play that game with you, by the way, because I'll show you
I don't have a
that
problem.
same angel of the great council in Isaiah 9:6. And by the way, not all Septuagint readings have that reading. That's
You're gonna
only
say
found
that Yahweh. You're gonna say that the angel of the Lord is called Yahweh, right?
according to the Septuagint. Yes.
Prove it. Go ahead.
All right, I will. No problem. But don't run away from the Septuagint after. Yeah, is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. All right. Yeah, Bryce, can you bring up Isaiah 9:6 in the Septuagint, please?
By the way, when you say God, what do you mean by God? Because Jews are called gods in the Old Testament.
Yeah, I'm talking about the God of Nehemiah 9:6.
Isaiah what?
So you're going to prove that he's Yahweh himself?
Yeah, the Septuagint teaches that. Yeah.
Did you even read the context of Isaiah 9?
Yeah, I'm aware. You're going to say it's Hezekiah, yes?
Oh, crap. Hold
Yeah, so you read it, right?
Well, but you're going to say it's Hezekiah, right?
It doesn't matter what I say. I'm asking you if you read it.
Yes, that's fine. But I'm going to show you the next chapter. Well, it depends. Okay, if we go in the Hebrew, I'm going to show you the next chapter applies the same term, El Gibor, to Yahweh. And so he's showing that these terms work with both characters. But anyway, that's fine. Look, Isaiah 9:6. Yeah? Oh, damn. No, Bryce, I don't know about interlinear, though. Interlinear is a bit...
You want me to go to Septuagint? Do you want me to use the Brentons?
Yeah, you can use the Brentons, yeah.
By the way, do you believe that the prophecy in Ezekiel is a literal temple or like a spiritual one?
Well, Ezekiel 40 to 48.
Yeah, like the temple. I believe that it will be literal. You believe that it's spiritual?
No, I don't think any of the prophecies in Ezekiel 40 to 48 will be fulfilled. I believe they were conditional. Because if you go to Jeremiah 18, verses 1 to 12, specifically 5 to 11.
I mean, yeah, let's continue this topic and then we can talk about
that's fine. But we can go wherever you go. I'm gonna tell you how it all works. Don't worry.
All right, go ahead.
All right, hold on. I'm trying to. I don't ever use this website. I'm trying to.
And after that, you need to show me Jews from the time before the Messiah that you call, which is Jesus, that actually believed that the Messiah will be God.
Wait. So I'm going to show you the prophets believe in that. Is that not good enough for you?
It's your interpretation, bro. It's not the prophet.
Are you sure? All right, but Isaiah, you said you only believe in the Old Testament. So now do you also take the Jews as like an infallible rule of...
Yeah, so the Jews that came before the old tradition, that came after the Messiah that you call it the Messiah, which is Jesus, according to you. They came after these are called modern Jews. There's a difference between modern Jews and the historical Jews.
But I'm saying, because you said you want to go to the Old Testament. You believe in the Old Testament. So let's stick there. Because you're doing ping pong now. First year, a quarter verse. Then you say go to the Septuagint. Okay. So if you want, we're going to stick to the Septuagint. Or we can appeal to Jews.
Fine. Go ahead. Show
what
me
do you
the
want to
argument.
do? What, do you want to keep jumping? Because you started talking about the third temple and everything. So why?
Okay.
Why we?
I'm going to clarify what I want.
Start with
so after
Isaiah
you show me, after you show me what is it you want to show me in Isaiah 9.
Okay.
After that, you need to show me like historical Jews that believe that the Messiah will be God.
All right. Do you believe Isaiah 9:6 applies to the Messiah?
No, not at all.
Does Moses Maimonides apply to the Messiah?
Sure, he's a modern Jew. He's a modern Jew.
But Moses. Oh, okay. But Moses Maimonides uses ancient Jewish commentaries, and he uses ancient Jewish sources to support his view. And by the way, he ran polemics against Christians, so he would try to avoid that as much as possible.
I already have the quote on me, bro. I already have the quote on me. Have you never read it?
No problem. Yeah, I haven't read. Yeah, trust me, you don't know what I've read. Here we go. We're going to read the verse. Yeah, and Bryce, actually, in another tab, this is what I want you to do, Bryce. Yeah.
By the way, you know why? Because Maimonides, he says El and he put a comma and Gibor. It doesn't combine El and Gibor together. So it's not saying that he's
I'm aware of how you guys twist it. I know. It's okay.
Oh, yeah. So you know, and you're quoting it and you know it, right?
Yeah, no problem. We're going to do it. And is he consistent in Isaiah 10 when it uses El Gibor again in verse 23? Does he do the same thing there when it applies to Yahweh? No, he doesn't.
You don't even know what this rabbi quotes, bro. You don't even know.
Okay, I don't know. So can you go to, in this instance, Bryce, go to chapter 63, verses 9 and 10. Actually, no, verses 7, we're going to read from verses 7 to 10. Okay, I can barely read. Okay, I remember the mercy of the Lord, the praises of the Lord in all things, wherein he recompenses us. The Lord is a good judge to the house of Israel. He deals with us according to his mercy and according to the abundance of his righteousness. Who's the Lord here, Isaiah?
What verse, sorry?
Isaiah 63, verse 7 to 10. Who's the Lord?
Why did you jump to Isaiah 63?
I'm going to show you, because I'm going to show you that the angel of the great council that you appealed to in Isaiah 9:6 is Yahweh. Watch. You're going to see what I'm going to do. Are you ready?
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah. So who's the Lord here?
Yahweh?
Okay. Can we read verse 9 as well? Okay. Out of all their affliction, not an ambassador, nor a messenger. Watch this. This is the Septuagint, yeah? Not an ambassador, nor a messenger. The word for messenger there is angelos, which is the Greek equivalent to malach, yeah? Which means angel.
I know. Yeah.
But himself saved them. Okay, so the Lord saved them, Yahweh, yeah? Hashem. Because he loved them and spared them. He himself redeemed them and took them up and lifted them up all the days of old. Wow. Okay, but they disobeyed and provoked his Holy Spirit. Again, a second person, but we're not going to the Holy Spirit now. Notice in verse 9, it's the same Lord, Yahweh, who redeemed them, yes? And he took them up. Now, Bryce, can you go in now, the New King James, because it uses the Masoretic text, and see who verse 9 is actually talking about? Because we're going to see what the Septuagint translators identify the person in Isaiah 63:9 as. Watch this. Okay. In all their affliction, he was afflicted, and the angel of his presence. Wait. The angel of what? The angel of his presence. Also, that word presence can also mean face in the Hebrew. The angel of his face saved them. In his love and his pity, he redeemed them. Wait. So the angel of the Lord, the angel of Yahweh, is the one who redeemed them.
Yeah, by the authority of Yahweh.
But wait. But the Septuagint says it was Yahweh who redeemed them, which means the Septuagint translators are identifying the angel of the Lord as Yahweh.
Yeah, it's just gonna be agency, bro. That doesn't matter.
No, but you said it was Yahweh. Look,
I love that. It's agency. Agency.
Do you see the tap nods? Do you see? He said it was Yahweh, and now it's not. Look how they change it. Look how they do it. All tap dancers. That's why when you go to Isaiah 9:6,
one second. Wait. How can the angel of Yahweh be Yahweh himself?
Relax, little boy.
Right.
Relax.
Tell me now.
I didn't make my point. That's why when you say Isaiah 9:6 in the Septuagint proves your point. No, it doesn't, because it's the same angel of the great council who what? Who will be born. That same angel here, the Septuagint translators identify as Yahweh. Thank you. So Yahweh,
the angel of Yahweh. One second. How can the angel of Yahweh be Yahweh himself?
How can he not?
You don't answer the question as a question, bro. Like, answer the question I asked.
Okay, yeah. How can he? Because he possesses the name Yahweh. The Bible says so.
But Yahweh says there is no God besides me.
I know, because he's not a separate God. I'm not an Arian. I believe that they're one in essence. So the Father and the Son are not separate deities. That's why when God says, "I stretch the heavens alone," and there is
that way, bro. Like that's what you're doing, man.
So wait. So I'm gonna guess the verses you're appealing to, either Deuteronomy 32:6 or Isaiah 44:24, 43:10, something like that, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, but those verses prove my point, because I don't believe God had a partner who he worked with. I'm not an Arian. I use those verses against Arians. I believe Father, Son, Holy Spirit are one God. They're not separate deities. Wait, Isaiah. Hey, how's it feel to lose?
What?
How does it feel to lose?
I didn't lose. What are you talking about?
Hey, you lost. No, but you see that, Bryce?
Yeah. I'm still waiting.
The Scriptural translators identify this angel of his face, or the angel of his presence,
I'm
as
still
Yahweh.
waiting for you to prove that Isaiah 9:6 is about the Messiah.
What do you mean? I gave you even Jewish expository.
What? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I quoted you Moses Maimonides, no?
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it puts the comma between El and Gibor.
Doesn't matter, because you appeal to the Septuagint. Wait, is the Septuagint in Hebrew?
The Septuagint is a translation of the Hebrew Bible.
Okay, so be good. You said that he puts a comma between El and Gibor when there's no comma in the Hebraic language, right?
Yeah, but this is a modern Jew typing, right?
So when he buries you, it's okay. But then when he tries to show that my position's wrong, oh no, you're going to use him now. Is that how it works?
Isaiah, who do you use
I don't
as
even
the
take this
expository
guy.
for
I
this
don't even
verse?
take this guy.
Who do you take
And
for this?
Yeah, and by the way,
Lewis,
Bryce,
I don't even take him as a rabbi. I don't believe in
Who do
rabbinic.
who do you take as a valid source for Isaiah 9:6 for like exegesis?
The historical Jews.
Name one.
What do you mean name one?
Name one.
Name 10 Jews.
Name one historical Jew
10
that gives the
Jews? I
exegesis
don't know
on this
10
that you
Jews.
need. Name one historical Jew that you're talking about that does the exegesis on this, saying it's not the Messiah.
You gave the question to me back. I asked you the question first.
What?
I asked you before I joined, right? I asked you, give me anyone from history.
Hold
that
on,
believed
wait,
that
but your
Isaiah 9:6 was
interpretation,
God.
no, your interpretation of Scripture, right? That is something that you also get from from historical Jews. Do you get this from historical Jews that it's not the Messiah? Do you affirm that? Because you're giving an impossible appealing, because you can't even name any yourself that support your position. So we're on equal ground.
I made a claim. Right. So my claim was that Isaiah 9:6, you're saying that the Messiah is God there, right? So I told you to provide me with evidence that of Jews that believe that this Messiah will be God from that time. You didn't.
I don't think you
wait,
understand
Isaiah,
what I'm asking.
You said we're going to go to the Old Testament. I said, okay. Then you switched to the Septuagint translation of the Old Testament. I said, okay, I buried you there. Now you're jumping. Oh, let's go to historical Jews. Well, how many Jewish commentaries do we have prior to Christ? Can you name me? Can you name me more than one?
That was my question. I was like, where is he getting his interpretation from? Because he's saying that, no, I don't subscribe to modern Jews. Okay, so show me the Jews you do subscribe to.
That's your job, not mine.
Exactly. This dude's personally interpreting the Scripture.
We don't have to. No, we don't have to. We can show you from the text. Because if you go to Isaiah 7, it's all one prophecy, by the way. Go from Isaiah 7. If you go Isaiah 7 to 11,
did you read 15 and 16?
Wait, which chapter?
Isaiah 7, 15 and 16. Did you read them?
Yeah, that's fine. You're going to say it's Hezekiah. I know your argument. But that's fine. Because in Jewish interpretation, I can grant that. Because prophecy.
And by the way, the word virgin there doesn't imply a virgin necessarily.
Actually, the word alma can imply virgin, but you appeal to the Septuagint. What does the Septuagint say? The Septuagint says Parthenon.
No, even the word in the Septuagint can also mean not a virgin sometimes as well.
But no, Parthenon is always used in the context of virgins. Can you show me that in the Bible where it's used in the context of a non-virgin?
Are you going to respond to the Alma first, and then we're going to go to the Septuagint?
No, because from the start you said we're going to go to the Septuagint.
One by one, we're not jumping, bro.
You did say you said you were going to Alma. No, you said you were going to use the Septuagint, yeah?
He said Alma first. He said Alma means virgin. That's what he said.
You're the one who made the claim about Alma. You're the first person to say Alma.
The claim about Alma. I said my claim was it doesn't necessarily imply virginity.
Yes, and did Lewis mention Alma prior to you?
But the Septuagint translators see it as virginity, and you appeal to the Septuagint. So now when the Septuagint buries you, we don't use that. Why do you do hopscotch with the Bible? I don't get it.
If it's a virgin, then it would be a contradiction to the text in Isaiah 7 and 8. It would be a contradiction.
How would it be a contradiction?
Because the child born, which is Hezekiah, he wasn't born from a virgin.
Yeah, but by the way, even if you're saying it's referring to Hezekiah, text can be doubly prophetic.
1 second. Do you agree that it would be a contradiction if it's Hezekiah?
Wait. Relax. Do you agree that text can be doubly prophetic, meaning they can have two meanings, and that they could refer to two different events?
Let me grant you. Okay, fine. Let's say it's double prophetic, right? Let's say it's talking about two persons, right? So the prophecy is saying that this child will be born of a virgin. So was Hezekiah born of a virgin?
Okay. Prophecies, by the way, I don't know if you know this.
Yeah, you're panicking now, bro.
Certain parts of the prophecies don't have to be fulfilled in both persons. Did you know that?
So one person, the prophecy says that this child will be born of a virgin, right? And you're saying that it applies to Hezekiah, but his mom wasn't a virgin, right? You're saying, right?
No,
so what is this sense for? What are you talking about?
Isaiah. I granted that it's Hezekiah, but I'm saying that part doesn't need to be applied to Hezekiah.
So you just pick and choose?
No, because contextually, like you said, Hezekiah's mother wasn't a virgin, which means this actually has to apply.
Which means, according to you, this is
which means this has to apply to the Messiah.
Wait, what are you talking about?
You proved it because wait, you proved it, by the way, because you appealed to the Septuagint. The Septuagint says verbatim virgin. Yeah.
Okay, so then it's a contradiction.
Now you want no, it's not a contradiction if you allow it to apply to the Messiah.
My belief and your belief, right?
No, the problem is my text. I don't believe it has contradictions, so I take it serious. So when it says virgin, that means it has to apply to the Messiah. Because you just said it can't apply to Hezekiah since his mother wasn't a virgin. So that's my point. You proved my case.
My point is that it's Alma. It can mean young girl.
Slow.
My point is that according to the
wasting our time, man. I'm sitting on a balcony debating this guy. Do you even know where I am? Look, let me show you. Look where I am. Look, I'm on the balcony, my friend.
Okay,
You've already got a PC in front of you. I'm chilling.
Okay.
Bryce,
so my point
you can carry on with him, Bryce, if you want. You can run some epistemology on him or something, bro. I'm bored of this guy.
Lewis, one more question. Wait, one more question. If it's a virgin, then as I said, the context is talking about Hezekiah. We can see in the next chapter that's fulfilled in Hezekiah, right? So if it's a virgin, if the word is virgin, then you just buried my religion and yours.
Okay, shall I tell you why you're cooked? Because if you go
you're cooked and I'm cooked, bro.
Okay, let me show you, because you don't know how prophecy works in the Bible. Go to 2 Samuel 7:14. Do you know, I can't even bother to take this with you, man. If you go to 2 Samuel 7:14, yeah, that's also a messianic prophecy, but in its historical context, it applies to Solomon as well. However, the promise would be broken and God would be a liar.
Yeah, but both persons can fulfill this prophecy exactly in the prophecy you quoted.
But dummy.
You're the dummy, bro.
Wait, does Solomon reign on the throne forever? Tell me that.
Forever doesn't necessarily imply forever, bro.
Wait, does he? Oh my gosh, you are gone, bro.
The word in Hebrew doesn't necessarily imply forever. It's used in a context where it can mean a long time.
Wow, you are finished, man.
You are finished, bro. What are you talking about? Did you not know?
Wait. Well, you've actually embarrassed yourself on this live, man. This is not good, man.
No,
I'm sorry for you.
The word in Hebrew doesn't necessarily imply eternality.
Yeah, okay, bro. By the way, Bryce.
You're just laughing and you don't know about it, bro.
That's another messianic prophecy where it applies to someone within its immediate context, but it also applies to the Messiah. And its ultimate fulfillment is in the Messiah. The same way Isaiah 7:14 is ultimate fulfillment is in the Messiah. What did
you not understand about the word in Hebrew forever doesn't necessarily imply eternality?
Bryce, should we drop the dog?
Yeah, you're running away, bro.
Well, I mean, Isaiah, I definitely still wanted to figure.
Follow me.
I wanted to figure something out, you know, because like you're asking for us to show you sources that affirm our position, right? But that's presupposing that you already have the interpretation for your position. So who are you getting yours from?
Just reading the text, bro. What are you talking about?
Oh, so you're personally interpreting it?
It aligns with what the Jews believed in the first century. And
how do you know that? Can you name one historical Jew that shows that?
No one ever believed that the Messiah will be God.
Good claim. Can you show that?
You'd need to provide evidence that they believed that.
That's you're presupposing that your position is already correct. I just asked you what your position was. No, stop. Hold on. You're not understanding the problem here. You're using a critique against us by saying that we need to show sources for our interpretation, but we believe that our interpretation is within the church. And so with you, right, you're saying that you have the interpretation from the historical Jews. You say the historical Jews didn't believe that Jesus was God, or that the Messiah would be God. Okay, can you show that occurring at all? Show one singular historical Jew that makes that claim.
Ask me a question back.
Are you going to answer my? Are you going to answer my question? No, I told you that our interpretation is based in the church.
The church.
So now that I've given you my epistemology to where I get my sources from, now I want you to give yours.
Your church is a source of the Messiah.
Look at him running from this. What is yours?
No, I'm not running. I'm asking you, bro.
No, it's my turn. I answered. Now you answer.
So why would I trust the church?
What, dude? You're still running from this. Answer my question.
Yeah. You need to provide.
What is your interpretation? You need to provide me with evidence. You see how that works? You see how stupid your epistemology is?
No, you said that your evidence was church, bro.
Yeah, I can say that my stuff is grounded in the church and that those are the historical Jews of the 1st, 2nd century. Those are the
First of all,
historical
before-
Jews.
Like even going to the church, you need to provide that Jesus is the actual Messiah. You cannot just say church.
What source do you have? I just want one. Even if you can name a singular Jew, historical Jew, pre-Christ, that affirms that the Messiah cannot be God. It's as simple as that. You're making a claim against me that they didn't believe this. Okay, show me that. Show me that they did not believe this and that they couldn't have believed this.
I didn't say I have a historical Jew. I said that.
So
no
what? So
historical
then
Jew
what?
believes-
So you just made a claim then?
No, my claim. You didn't hear my claim. I'm gonna repeat my claim, right? I said no historical Jew believed that the Messiah will be God. That was my claim.
Now please,
I never claimed that I have one.
demonstrate that. Please demonstrate that.
Yeah, so you'd need to provide me with evidence. That
How are
the
you?
historical
You're
Jews
throwing
believed
it back at me again. Look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did I ever
you
claim
just
that I have
made
someone?
you just made an interpretation. You literally are claiming that right now. You said the historical
No.
Jews did not believe this. Show me that.
Because there's no one who believed that. I don't
Thank
find anyone.
you. Thank you for going in the worst circle ever. Try that again.
That's what you're doing, bro. Like you're not
Yo,
gonna
Bryce,
respond. You're not
Bryce,
gonna
Bryce,
show me.
by the way, this guy's a Muslim. Wait, Isaiah, is Muhammad a false prophet?
Yeah, fuck him, bro.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, he's a Jew.
Oh, my bad, my bad.
What are you talking about? I don't give a shit about Muhammad, bro. What are you talking about?
All right. So again, you made a claim that they don't believe in this. So I'm asking you to just demonstrate that.
Okay, so my claim is that I searched about it and I didn't find anyone that believed in it. So is that not enough? What are you talking about?
So because of
I
the
didn't
fact
find
that you
anyone.
couldn't, but could you find anybody that affirms your position?
My position in what?
The fact that the Messiah cannot, the fact that the Messiah cannot be God himself.
Yeah, because Yahweh is the only true God according to the Old Testament.
Wow. And did you see what Lewis just did this entire time that you completely ran away from?
He's just butchering the text, bro. That's what he's doing.
Can you make an argument as to how he butchered it?
Because Yahweh is the only true God. There's no other God beside Yahweh.
Good argument, man.
What? I'm just reading the text.
You absolutely buried Lewis with that one.
He ran away from Isaiah 7:14 that was fulfilled in Ezekiel.
He literally granted you Isaiah 7:14 just for the sake of the argument.
If he granted
How
me
did he
that,
run from
wait, I told him I grant you that it's a virgin, but if it's a virgin, then that would bury my religion and his religion.
No,
that would bury both.
I don't think I don't think you understand the entire question that I'm trying to ask you this entire time, right? Because you're making the claim that the historical Jews did not believe that the Messiah can be God. I'm asking you to demonstrate.
I couldn't
that.
find anyone that did.
Wow. So that's your evidence for Orthodox Judaism. That's your argument for that?
You can change my mind by showing me someone who did.
You don't have anybody that believes what you believe.
No, I do. Because
Name
they
one.
believe that Yahweh is the only true God.
Name one.
They believe that Yahweh is the only true God.
The prophets?
Everyone. Yeah, the prophets aren't Jews. What are you talking about?
Lewis literally just made an entire biblical argument that you ran from.
I ran. I'm still here, bro. What?
You ran from the argument. I'm not saying that you disappeared off the live. Silly.
I didn't run from the argument, bro. What are you talking about? He ran from Isaiah 7.
Bro, he literally showed you. Do you not remember what just happened here in Isaiah 63?
Okay, fine. Can you show? Okay, so I mean, you're not understanding my argument. I told you you'd need to show me.
That's just useless.
that
That's just useless rhetoric. I understand your argument completely. This is the reason why that I showed you that this is a double standard. Because I can tell you the things that I appeal to, and then you have to say, no, it has to be pre-Christ. Okay, so can you name a single person then pre-Christ that affirms your position? Because there's pretty much nobody.
I'm gonna help you here. Okay, show me a person from the 1st century, right, which is a Jew, that has a line going back to before Christ that believed that the Messiah will be God.
Yeah, sure.
If you don't have any sources
Can I show you any of the apostles?
Bro, the apostles, bro. What are you talking about, bro?
Yeah, they're all 1st
You're not
century
gonna use
Jews
the
that
Bible,
have a lineage. John the Baptist
You're not
actually,
gonna
John
use
the
the Bible.
Baptist himself actually has a valid Levantine lineage. Is that good enough?
You're gonna use the Bible?
Yeah, because that's what you're
Testament,
appealing
bro.
to.
Okay, so prove first that the Messiah is Jesus first, and then you can use the New
Do
Testament.
you understand that if I'm using the New Testament in the first place, that's just a historical documentation of what occurred in the 1st century? So if I'm if I use John the Baptist as evidence, that's me using a Levantine priest as evidence in the 1st century.
I don't know
where you get any of your ideas from, Isaiah,
I've
because
already addressed all this
it's
stuff, John. He doesn't even have a
just
single source for any of
well,
this.
no, I've been listening. I've been listening to the whole
My
thing.
source is the Old
Hold
Testament.
on,
That's my
hold
source.
on, hold on, Rufus.
Okay.
Because objectively speaking, the Jews of the first century that did convert to Christianity were the most conservative sect of Judaism. That's just objective history.
The people that converted to Christianity were Jews of the first century. So that's why
They
I
were
said
literally.
that's why I made that argument about the first century. You said show me somebody in the first century. Okay, I'll show you a historical document. John the Baptist. He was
Other than the New
valid other than the New Testament. Okay, do you want Saint Ignatius?
can,
do you want
sure.
Saint Ignatius of Antioch?
That's your church father, bro.
He's a first century Jew.
Want a Jew?
He's a first century Jew.
Isaiah, wait, Bryce, but you don't realize what this guy's doing. Anyone you show him, you're going to say, but he has the belief, so you can't use him. But then you can't show him anyone then.
Exactly.
Because you're asking for someone with the belief in the Messiah being God. When we show you one, you say, yeah, but he's this. No, but that's the point.
This is so dumb.
Yeah,
there were multiple sects of Jews at that time.
Okay, fine. Wait.
Hold on, Isaiah. And the most conservative sect of Judaism converted to Christianity, and at the fall of the Second Temple, all of the records were gone. They were destroyed. It was reconstructionism afterwards. So what you're trying to say is, show me a first century source. And when we tell you first century sources, which were the Jews that converted to Christianity, you're like, well, I don't like that. Like, okay, name me one source that confirmed your position in the first century. Just name one. One person.
Let me grant you that there are.
One person. No. Name one person. No. Name one person.
And by the way, Bryce,
I just want the name. That's it. That's all I ask. One person. If it's anything other than the name, I don't want to hear it. One person.
I don't have a name, bro.
Good boy.
So why should we listen to you?
All right,
Thank you for conceding.
By the way, Bryce, can you go to Bryce, can you go to James 2:2 in the Greek? I just want to make a quick point here.
So okay, let's assume that the Messiah is Jesus, right?
Yeah.
You just conceded, dude. There's nothing to talk about.
Wait. I want to show you that James is a Jewish writer. You're going to see this. Watch. James 2:2 in the Greek, Bryce.
You're going to beat me now, bro. What the hell?
Wait, Isaiah, because let me just show you something, because you don't know these things. Let me show you.
Okay, show me.
Bryce, before the eschaton, please.
Yep. I have to type it up for the interlinear.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Notice here, scroll down. Okay, notice here. He talks about, the assembly. Now, guess what the word is in the Greek for assembly? I'm going to read it for you. Synagogin. Do you know what that means? Synagogue. This means James is writing prior to the destruction of the temple, where Christians are still gathering at synagogues. So these are actually early Jews who converted to Christianity, who believed in Jesus as Messiah, King, Lord of heavens and of earth, and they were gathering at synagogues. These are early Jews that believed in the Messiah being God. So there you go.
A Goy father, by the way, he's an Orthodox Jew. He doesn't affirm the Talmud. So if you show a chain of narration, he's just going to deny all of them.
He cooked himself. He couldn't name a single person.
I can take it as historical anyway, it doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
Alright, so if you go to Targum Jonathan on Isaiah 9:6, he applies this directly to the Messiah. Targum Jonathan is in Megillah Freer. We can take this historically.
I read it, I know it does.
Oh, so you agree, right? It's attributed to Jonathan ben Uziel.
I don't agree with the Talmud. I said I read it before.
He translates it. He translates these prophets into the Aramaic from the traditions. Isaiah, what you asked for, okay, was a chain. All right, you wanted a chain that dates pre-Christ, correct?
Yeah.
Was Zechariah and Malachi pre-Christ?
Of course.
And does Megillah Freer, all right, we take it as a historical source at that, does it say that Jonathan ben Uziel got these traditions from Zechariah and Malachi?
Can you show me that?
Yeah, Megillah Freer. I'll pull up, yeah. I believe it's Megillah Freer, anyway. Let me find it. Yeah, here we go. So Megillah 3, Siman 4. The Aramaic translations of the prophets was composed by Jonathan ben Uziel based on the traditions going back to the last prophets, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi.
Can you show me the source on the screen?
I don't have camera access on this account, buddy.
Oh, okay.
If you want to pull it up for him, Bryce, I can type it in chat if you want.
Yeah, if you want to tell me what to look up here.
Megillah 3.
So if Jesus is actually the Messiah, why didn't he build a...
Let him pull it up. No, let him pull it up first. You asked for a chain from someone post-Christ that dates pre-Christ. So I'm going to bring you it. Don't worry, my friend.
What is it?
Wait, go further. Notice every point, yeah, like, because he knows he's about to get fried and barbecued right now. He started to jump to something else. Do you see?
Okay.
Brother. Ux and Bala, I debated this guy in the continuity argument 2 days ago.
No, I didn't talk about... What are you talking about? I never spoke to you, bro. What?
Okay, Antonio.
What?
I'll just get Michael to pull the recording. But anyway,
I first said, can you write him?
Yeah, Megillah 3 is it's in the chat, Bryce, if you want to type it. MEGILLA3. Yeah. And then it's going to be Metro Safari and then line 3. Line 4, sorry. So scroll down to where it says 4 on the side. There we go. As we see, the Aramaic translations of the prophets was composed by Jonathan ben Uziel based on the tradition going back to the last prophets, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. So, Isaiah, what you asked for...
Can you zoom in?
What you asked for was a Jew post-Christ who has a chain that dates pre-Christ. I've given you it. Now what?
And this guy says that the Messiah will be God in Isaiah 9:6?
He attributes Isaiah 9:6 to the Messiah.
But he says that he's going to be God, yes or no?
Isaiah
Are we moving the goalpost now?
Yeah, let's have a bet.
Isaiah says it.
Because the first thing, because the thing that you asked was that you wanted me to show somebody that this applies to Isaiah 9:6 being the Messiah, and now you're saying, oh well, he says that the Messiah is God.
Okay, sure, I don't have a problem. Yeah, show me that he also agrees that the Messiah is God.
Okay, so then do you concede the first thing you argued?
Fine.
So you concede Isaiah 9:6 is the Messiah, right?
Fine, but that still doesn't prove that he's God.
Wait.
Now, if you want to continue now, Lewis, you can.
One more time. I want to hear it one more time. Do you concede Isaiah 9:6 is about the Messiah?
Sure.
So why was you being so like a little girl earlier and pretending like it wasn't?
Because I didn't know about this.
Oh, good boy. So you've been corrected. Okay,
why are you talking to me? Are you fucking gay, bro? What are you talking about?
No, we're gonna go to the verse itself now. Relax.
Right. If you want to keep talking, come back up. But I'm not gonna get my live banned because you manifesting, bro.
Yo, no. Do you know what? Don't manifest. It's okay. Do you know what it is? Every point he brought up got refuted, and I'm so happy we got this clip. Bryce, you're gonna have to get me all these clips because these Jews are so dishonest.
This live is gonna be uploaded as soon as it's done.
Isaiah. We're gonna clip you like crazy. Every point you made. Yeah, I'm going to edit the video very nicely. I'm going to show you how you move the goalpost every time. We went to the Septuagint. Then when it refuted you, you jumped off it and said, no, we're going to go to the Hebrew. When the Hebrew refuted you, we're going to go back to the Septuagint. See?
Make sure, Lewis, make sure to get him there. When I asked him, name him. Just the name. That's it. That's all I want. He said, I don't have one. I said, okay, good.
Oh, I don't have one. Yeah.
By the way, what type of Jew is this guy?
He doesn't know what he doesn't know what he is, but he kind of follows more like the Orthodox Judaism, where he just doesn't affirm the Talmud, and he thinks that the Old Testament is like the only thing that matters.
Oh, this guy's a Karaite. He's not anything, right? But even if you take the Talmud as historical, I can show him multiple times when Lewis was saying that even if you say it applies to Hezekiah, it's dual, right? It's a dual messianic prophecy. I can show him where, well, if he did affirm these rabbis, right? That these rabbis quite literally say that it's applied to Hezekiah and the Messiah, right? And that Hezekiah is likened to the Messiah.
Because I know there are arguments. That's why I didn't even want to argue against it being Hezekiah. I said, okay, we can allow it to be both. It's a both and, not an either or. And your tradition allows for that. Because the Old Testament's full of double prophecies. And that's why I brought up 2 Samuel 7:14. Because there it talks about the covenant that God will make with David's son. David's son, for us, obviously being ultimately fulfilled in the Messiah, but in its immediate context, it's talking about Solomon. But then it says that he will sit on the throne forever. So I wanted to show him, whoa, Solomon can't sit on the throne forever because obviously he's going to pass away one day. So the only one who can sit on the throne forever is the Messiah, who's immortal, eternal, because he is God in the flesh.
I appreciate you guys coming up here for that, man. That was nice. That was a really good. That was a really good video to be uploaded. It'll be. I mean, as soon as because I'm streaming on YouTube as well, it'll immediately be uploaded as soon as I stop streaming. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys for coming
Rumi,
up.
some questions, brother.
Yeah.
Yo.
What was your question, Rumi?
Like we did like with Luke the double prerogative writer with Lord. Where in like Matthew, Mark, and John would you say like the irrefutable ones?
Irrefutable.
Yeah, so do you know how like Lord, that one like can't be answered?
Yeah. Okay, in John, so if you want from words of people in the narrative, or if you want words from...
It has to be Jesus' words.
It has to be Jesus' words?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you're not going to get verbatim, it's going to be hard to get like verbatim statements where like, oh, from one verse you prove Jesus is God. But I can show you verses where Jesus uses Old Testament verses and applies them to himself.
That's fine. Like Jesus attributing Old Testament.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Bryce, do you mind doing the heavy work for me and typing up the verses? Okay. Use Bible Gateway because we're gonna have to put a couple verses together.
Go ahead.
All right. Deuteronomy 32:39. Psalm 95:7. And John 10 verses 27 to 30. Okay. So now see that I am he, and there is no God besides me. I am alive and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Nor is there any who can deliver from my hand. Notice the last bit especially. Nor is there any who can deliver from my hand. All right, next verse. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice. Notice, the people of his pasture meaning a group of sheep, or what a shepherd leads, and the sheep of his hand. Okay, now here's what Jesus says. My sheep hear my voice. Well, that's Psalm 95:7 again. And I know them, and they follow me, and I give them eternal life. Wait, in Deuteronomy 32:39, it was Yahweh who gives them life. Yeah, it says, look, I am alive and I make alive. Okay, we're going to carry on. I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. Yeah, neither shall anyone snatch them out of my hand. Wait, but Deuteronomy 32:39 says, no, Yahweh speaking, and Yahweh says, nobody can snatch them out of my hand. So Jesus is applying these Old Testament motifs to himself. But then he also applies it to the Father. My Father, who has given them to me, is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand. So just like they can't snatch them out of Jesus' hand, they can't snatch them out of the Father's hand, they can't snatch them out of the hand of Yahweh in the Old Testament. Jesus is applying this to himself. And then he says, I and my Father are one. Now, what Jews and what anti-Trinitarians will try to do is, they'll try to go to John 17 where it says, may they be one just as we are one. But that doesn't work given the prior context as to what Jesus is saying. Yeah? Look, I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they may all be one as you, Father, are in me and I am in you, and they also may be one in us. But this is different in the context because this is talking about us being united to Christ the way the church is united to the bridegroom. That's the theology of the New Testament. But what Jesus is talking about in John 10 is different. Jesus is talking about ontological equality with the Father. Why? Because he's applying Old Testament motifs about Yahweh to himself, and he applies the same thing to the Father, and then he says, I and the Father are one. So given the context, it's a different kind of oneness with the Father than we have with the Father.
So then how do you deal with like a couple of verses later and he says, and you are God's, right? Verse 30.
Yeah, Psalm 82. Okay, the reason he quotes that verse is because if you read Psalm 82 in context, Psalm 82 is talking about unrighteous judges. It's talking about men who are unrighteous judges. And if you read the verses before that, so if you read Bryce, bring up Psalm 82 and John 10, verses 31 to 36.
John what?
10, 31 to 36. Okay, so here it's talking about, look, if you read in verse 6, I said, you are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, but you shall be unalived like men, okay, and fall like one of the princes. So this is what Jesus quotes. But if you read the chapter, it's talking about them being unjust judges. And so this is what's happening in John 10. Then the Jews took up stones again to stone him. Notice, they want to stone Jesus. Jesus answered them, many good works I have shown you from my Father. For which of those works do you stone me? The Jews answered him, saying, for a good work we do not stone you, but for blasphemy, and because you being a man make yourself God. Notice, even in the context, the Jews understand Jesus is making himself God. Now, the reason Jesus responds with Psalm 82 is that they're saying they're unrighteously judging him. Why? Because what Jesus is saying is that I'm not the Father. He's saying I'm the Son who is one with the Father, because they understand him as saying that he is the Father. That's the point. So he's calling them unrighteous judges. That's why he quotes these verses here. They're unrighteously judging him, basically.
W.
Then what happens when someone just says, "Wow, this could be agency"?
Yeah, I'll tell you how. Yeah, agency doesn't work because what agency is supposed to prove is that the agent is to be identified as the one who sent him. This isn't a principle that we actually find in the Bible, and there are many verses that teach to the contrary. For example, John 14:12. So we're going to stick to John here. Okay. What does Jesus say to the disciples? He says, most assuredly I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, so Jesus' works, he will do. Okay, so that person will do the works of Jesus also. And greater works than these he will do. Oh, okay, interesting, Jesus. So the disciples who believe in Jesus will do greater works than him, not in quality, but in quantity, because they went and spread the gospel to the world. Yeah? Greater works than he did because I go to my Father. Now, if that's the case, that agency means that because you're doing the work on behalf of the one who sends you, then you can be identified as the one who sends you. Then why aren't the disciples identified as God? Why aren't they identified as Jesus? See, that proves that agency isn't a principle that you find in the New Testament. And in the Old Testament, I can show the same thing.
Where in the Old Testament would you say?
Bro, do you know what? Old Testament, it's all over. With the angel of the Lord, the thing is with the angel of the Lord, you see things like the Father saying that the angel of the Lord has my name within him. And the word name in Hebrew, name can actually refer to the essence of a thing as well. And so when he says he has my name in him, and because of that, he won't forgive your transgressions if you transgress against him, he's showing that the angel of the Lord is one with him in essence. But that some people would say that's a leap. That's the way of interpreting it.
Okay. Where would you say in Matthew or Mark then?
Well, where Jesus proves he's God.
Yeah, he's words.
Okay. Matthew 21, 12 to 16. And then put Psalm 8, verses 1 to 2 next to that as well. Okay. Notice the Psalm. O Lord, our Lord, so this is Yahweh, this is talking about Yahweh. How excellent is your name in all the earth, who have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and nursing infants, you have ordained strength. Notice, out of the mouth of babes and nursing infants. That's the main point there, yeah? So this psalm is about Yahweh. And this psalm then mentions babes and nursing infants. Now watch what Jesus does with this psalm in the New Testament. Scroll up.
Argument. Irrefutable.
Yeah. Then Yeah, okay. And he said to them, "It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." Then the blind and lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying out in the temple, notice, children crying out in the temple and saying, "Hosanna to the Son of David," they were indignant. Indignant can mean angry or furious, etc. And said to him, "Do you hear what these are saying?" So the Pharisees and the scribes are saying to Jesus, "Do you hear what these children are saying?" What does Jesus say to them as a response? He doesn't say, "Oh, they shouldn't do that. Guys, children, stop." No, this is what he says. And Jesus said to them, "Yes, have you never read? Out of the mouth of babes and nursing infants, you have perfected praise." Wow. So Jesus is applying Psalm 8:2, which is about Yahweh, where it talks about babes and nursing infants. And he says, this is the reason they praise me, because children in the presence of Yahweh can do nothing but praise Yahweh. And so the reason they praise me is the same reason they praise Yahweh. And so Jesus applies this verse to himself and says, this is why they're praising me.
You know what their cope response to that is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll just do the stupid appeal, like when the angel directed I think it was Jacob to make an altar to him, right? And they would just say, yeah, it's agency, they're worshiping God through the agent.
Yeah, but that doesn't work, because that same angel says he is the God of Bethel. And the God of Bethel is Yahweh, because if you go 4 chapters earlier, anyway, we don't have to go there, but I'm just saying, these comebacks don't work. That's I've trust me, I've been there, I've done that.
So what do you think? What do you think is, like, in your opinion, the most like, I wouldn't say difficult, because I don't think that any Unitarian arguments are actually good, like in the sense that they become difficult.
They have to take things out of context in order
most,
to make anything work.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think the most irritating argument that they give, that it's like, okay, like, this is dumb, but it also, like, takes a lot of, it takes some good scriptural breakdown to refute?
Do you want me to be honest with you?
There's none, right?
There aren't any, no. No. Once you know the arguments, it's light work. It's really nothing. It's like you're going to the toilet. I swear, it's nothing.
And what was the last one from Mark?
All right, Mark's tricky.
You can use the forgiving sins route with, like, Mark 2, right? And then
showing that forgiving sins.
John 20, are they?
Mark 2 or the Lord of the Sabbath.
What about when he heals the leper in I think Mark 8?
You can use all of those. It's just like Rumi wants specific words. No, crumbs. Rumi wants specific.
Yeah, I want Jesus saying these things. It's part of the argument I'm making. He has to be Jesus saying these things.
I mean, what about in Mark when it talks about, right? Oh, you want words, you don't want like scriptural ties.
Yeah, he's got to be like Jesus, like claiming himself.
Yeah, right here where it says Mark 2 verses 6-7, but there were some of the scribes sitting there and reasoning in their hearts, why does this man speak like this? Who can forgive sins but God alone? Notice that Jesus does not rebuke the Pharisees for even saying that only God can forgive sins. And then in Mark 2...
But then would they appeal to John 20 verse 20-23 where Jesus lets the disciples forgive sins?
Well, I mean, authorizing that would be directly through God in a different sense, because that's the establishment of the church. All right, so Jesus doing it would be in a different manner.
Yeah, and they will respond, that's the same with Jesus, the Father's given him the authority.
Yeah, but then we would just have to, like, continue, because like I said, I have stuff from the Old Testament in here as well for that. So, actually something that they would probably appeal to first would be Mark 2 verse 10, where it says, "But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." Right? And then, but if you look at Psalm 130 verse 4, it says, "But there is forgiveness with you, that you may be feared." And then Isaiah 43:25, where it says, "I, even I, am he who blots out your transgressions for my own sake, and I will not remember your sins." Joel 2:13, "So rend your heart and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger and great kindness, and he relents from doing harm." And then Micah 7 verse 18, "Who is a God like you, pardoning iniquity and passing over the transgressions of the remnant of his heritage? He does not retain his anger forever, because he delights in mercy." Right? There's not a single situation right? That's especially in the Old Testament where they do try to say that other people are capable of forgiving sins. And so when Jesus comes to earth and begins forgiving people of their sins, when he gives that authority, right, to the apostles, right, is Jesus giving that authority, or is God giving that authority in their view? Because Jesus is the one that commands it.
There is like God's given the authority through Jesus.
Yeah, they would just have to go to agency, which then you'd have to show again that agency doesn't work. Based off of the way that it's portrayed in the Old Testament for theophanies and stuff like that.
Yes. Because I've made the continuity argument even stronger, like 10 times stronger.
Yeah, Rumi. Don't forget that John 14:12 passage for agency, because if the disciples are doing greater works than Jesus, you'd expect them to be identified as Jesus at least, if they're the agents of Jesus, or to be identified as God, because they're the agents of God doing greater works than Jesus. So there's no reason you wouldn't expect that. Why is it that all of these statements that are being made of Jesus? And by the way, in John 20:28, when Thomas calls Jesus my Lord and my God, there's no escape from that passage, because there's also a psalm. It's Psalm 35:23. In the Septuagint, it's Psalm 34:23, because it's one chapter below. And there, if you read the Greek, it's almost identical to the Greek of Thomas, when Thomas calls Jesus his Lord and his God. But the psalmist does the same thing for Yahweh.
Alrighty, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and start letting more people up here. I appreciate you guys coming up here and helping us out with that.
I'm going to drop. I took over the live.
No, you're good,
God
bro.
bless, man.
No problem. Alrighty.
Hey, Lewis, I'm going to add you on Discord if you can hear, bro. I got some questions.
What's up, man? Man, you pissing?
Okay, wait, Halo, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, we can hear you. That's the problem.
Okay. Did you ask if I was atheist?
No, I haven't asked anything about you yet. I just said what's going on.
Okay,
He asked if you were pissing.
I said, are you pissing?
No, I'm doing the dishes currently. That's why. Okay, yeah, but how do you ground the claim atheism is false?
Say that one more time.
How do you ground the claim atheism is false?
We can use a syllogism if you want.
So you're going to propose this dichotomy, Christianity or theism and atheism?
Say again.
You're going to propose it's a dichotomy, theism and atheism?
That's part of it, but that's regarding epistemology.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, what's the syllogism?
I'm pulling it up here real quick. Actually, do you know what? I'm gonna try something else. Do you subscribe to like modal logic, like S5 axioms and stuff like that? I'm not gonna use the modal ontological argument itself, but I'm just asking if you subscribe to that.
I mean, honestly, when it comes to like the foundations of modal logic, yeah, when it comes to like the S5 systems, system K is all that bullshit. I just don't see rid of it.
Okay. So premise one would be logic, reasoning, intelligibility, and identity are preconditions for knowledge.
What do you mean by preconditions?
Necessities for something to be the case.
Okay, and knowledge is what?
Justified true belief.
Okay, so logic, sure. Wait, intelligibility, and we were just saying, I feel like intelligibility there is kind of certified.
Yeah, intelligibility in terms of like something being capable of being described in any way. It doesn't have to do with identity specifically, but just being able to describe anything in any sense with language.
Okay, sure. So those are preconditions of knowledge. And premise two is?
Logic, reasoning, intelligibility, and identity are not brute facts, but point to a necessary ground or foundation for their existence and coherence.
Okay, so that's a disagreement.
They're brute facts?
Well, no, I feel like the verbiage say. I feel like you're trying to describe these things as something that's being grounded or reasoned. So let's say like logic, for example. Do you take the statement that logic is a proposition as true?
Logic as a proposition as true?
Yeah, so like when we make the statement, things that are grounded are propositions, right? You can't ground a command or something like that, right? So, like reason and efforts like that are exclusive propositions.
It's the ability to do said thing, not the actual propositions themselves.
Wait, so when you say ground, we just mean like reason or have
the foundation for being able to do said thing.
Okay, what does it mean for logic to have a foundation? I'm confused.
Yeah, so like the laws of logic, for example, would be a concept. And so the foundation for said thing to be a concept, right? Would you believe that that concept is generated in you?
I don't even know if I would take laws of logic to be a concept, but
logic is not a concept.
It's not what I said. I don't know if I would take it to be, because like when we say concepts, we normally say something that has a dependency on the mind, or is conformed or formed by the mind. I wouldn't say that the laws of logic are dependent on the mind, so I don't know if I take them to be conceptual.
So you'd say that logic is independent of mind.
I mean, obviously, but I don't even like, because logic to me doesn't seem to be this thing that's like objective, subjective. It just seems to be like a natural property of what we observe.
Natural property. Okay, so it's something that we're observing.
It's a property of the thing we observe in the sense, so like, or intrinsic ontological property.
Yeah. So you'd say that in some way, shape, or form, like logic holds an ontology.
Sure.
Okay. Would that ontology be based in like a concreteness or an abstract, material or immaterial?
Oh, material or immaterial? I don't know. I'm kind of gnostic on it. It'll be like more of something like emergent in a sense.
Emergent properties.
Yeah, you would say it was more of emergent in a sense.
And so, like, what would be your personal argument for things being like emergent properties?
What are you saying? Like, I mean, honestly, like, I don't really argue that much, but if I was to just think of something, it would probably be like an analogical account, like color, for example.
Yeah, but would it be considered an objective, like, analogy? Or would it be considered like something that we're all just using as a consensus? So like color, like when you said like the color of something would be red, right? Would you say that like when we're coming to the conclusion that something is red, that if everybody agrees that something is red, then it is red?
No, that's intersubjective. Like how I would just say something. So like when we say red, right? Or like when we say someone sees red as a truth statement, it's not that everyone sees red. Like, yeah, of course, some people cannot. But so given, let's say, the light waves or whatever, right? And then given the way it reflects off your eyes, what is being produced is red, right? But given different properties, right, and giving different sets, yeah, you could see a different color, but it doesn't mean it's objective. If anything, it means it's not objective, or objective and just true.
Okay. So would you say that the wavelength of red is identical to the property of redness?
I don't even know what that would. So the wavelength of red is identical to the property of red? No.
I asked you. Okay, so then the property would be considered conceptual?
The property would be considered, the property is real. So like the thing there is that what we identify as the entailment of these two things being conjoined, right, is red. If you want to say the identification is conceptual, then I mean, sure, that's like trivial for most things. So, but the entity itself actually does exist independent of conceptuality.
The properties?
Yeah.
Do you hold to like a Platonic form view?
Platonism, or what it's called.
So you hold to Platonism in a sense, or you are just a Platonist?
In the sense, yeah. Because I don't really pertain to the view fully. I just use it in like the most intuitive sense.
So do you believe then in that case that there are Platonic forms at least?
And when you say that, we're saying about real forms of concepts, so like time, space.
Yeah, basically like objective concepts that we're basically applying subjectively to the world.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. What would be your method of knowing that the subjective thing that we're applying to the world is mapping to the objective concept?
Is mapping accurately?
Yeah.
I mean, so to say beyond reasonable doubt, then like we have no idea of that, but to say like inductively speaking, right? So,
yeah, but with that being said, then you'd be sacrificing that knowledge then. If you say that you can't, if you don't have the certitude of said thing, because you just said
honestly, I don't even agree with the idea that knowledge is true justified belief. That just seems like circular to me. But Because like when we say something's true, right, we say it's justified. So if I was to say, if you know something, or let's say like you know a rock is there, right, and I ask you the way you justify that, you're going to go to the truth, but then that's presupposing you have the knowledge of that, and that just infinitely regresses. Then it just seems like you're just saying it's about justification.
Yeah, that's the reason. That's the reason why we would obviously hold the JTB in our view, because there would be a finality point to truth in the first place.
Yeah, it's just
there wouldn't be considered an infinite regression. It would be an infinite regression in the atheistic view. I agree.
Yeah, see, the thing there is that's just not needed. Like you could say, it's like we could stop at a finite view, but honestly, if it's possible to the contrary, then I mean that kind of defeats theism, doesn't it? Because God is necessary.
What would be your definition of knowledge then?
A knowledge, it's pretty primitive. It would be just something that we have, or it should be like a belief that we uphold. Honestly, so like when I say,
can you have false knowledge?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, and so how do you create a distinction between true and false knowledge?
Well, when we say true knowledge, when you say like something's true, you got to say, under the atheist hypothesis, you're probably going to say there's a set of relevant data, and the relevant data makes me believe this conclusion, right? And then you would say for the false knowledge, at least, it's unjustified, right? Or it's just like proven to be most likely false, right? Because we're just going induction here, because I'm not really going to posit we have some type of certainty.
Yeah, but how does consistency actually lead to something being true, though? Because I could just provide a Gettier case.
Well, see, like no one posits truth in this sense, because like honestly, yeah, your cognitive ability are fallible, and nothing you know is.
My question that I asked you though was the difference between true knowledge and false knowledge.
Yeah,
and so that's why I'm asking. You said you'd use induction, right?
Well, yeah, when I say true there, I'm not saying like certainty in this sense. I'm just saying something that's upheld to be true.
Okay, so what would you use to determine the certainty of something being true?
Yeah, I just would deny we have certainty, really, honestly.
Would you say?
Except for like, I would deny we have certainty in most things. So except for like our existences and like stuff like that, that would just get circular deny.
So you can't determine anything to be true then.
You're an epistemic nihilist and willing to bite the bullet on hard solipsism based on the last thing that you just said.
Okay, well, I don't like the problem there. Okay, well, first, just to be clear, yeah, there are some things that you can know, and those things are things that would just regress in circularity to say you do not, right? So to say, like, I don't exist is just to be circular in itself, right? So there's no possibility of fallibility.
That's not circular. That's contradictory.
Yeah, it is circular. But to say I do not exist is a presupposed existence there, and then you're just going in a circle.
That's a contradiction.
Well, I mean, vicious circularity or metaphysical circularity and contradictions are like synonymous in a sense, but or the way that's described. And then you said, am I able to buy on solipsism? Well, the thing there, I mean, honestly, when it comes to theism, if you're positing that there isn't a possible world where God does not exist, right? He's a necessity. Then honestly, any position I bite on, you're able to give me a contradiction. So it doesn't really matter what position I bite on, honestly.
Yeah, that's literally that's literally the entire point for the existence of God, is the fact that every single worldview leads to that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So how does solipsism lead to God?
Solipsism does not lead to God. Every worldview leading into solipsism, making knowledge impossible, leads to the fact that God would be the case in terms of actually having explanatory power for anything whatsoever in philosophy. Like if you hold to like hard solipsism, then philosophy isn't even possible in your view. I mean, like you just made like all of these arguments about how there's like properties of things, and things are immaterial, and things have this and things have that, but you can't actually make any of that to be the case because of the fact that you just straight up granted the fact that nothing is certain at all. So when you said like you held to like a Platonic forms in a sense as well, you're not even certain that you do that. You're not certain that there's properties of anything. You're not certain that there's anything.
It's just arbitrary, and to you, within the foundations of your own philosophical system that you've presented to us, those things are nothing but useful fictions.
Well, I feel like there's a distinction between the epistemic proposition there, right? So when we say I'm not like certain anything, that doesn't deny that certainty exists, it just denies that the awareness of it. And again, that's just like some type of epistemic awareness.
Okay.
And when we talk about that for a worldview, then I don't really understand it, because you have to deny that, well, within the given worldview, certainty can exist independent of the awareness. All the tag arguments and stuff like that do is substantiate the certainty. Because
if there is a worldview out there that does contain the fullness of truth and a correspondence with reality, that worldview would exist in contradiction to the rest of the other worldviews, right? It would negate the truth aptness of the other worldviews, would it not?
Yeah, that's in contrary to that. Yeah, sure.
So that's what we are arguing for when we run tag. It's a paradigmatic comparison.
Yeah, but see, like this thing there is like tag. So the only reason tag could even follow is if you grant or say that God is a contingent necessity, right? Well, if you're like going
contingent necessity,
no.
Yeah,
no.
so God
no,
is,
that's not accurate at all.
Hold on, wait. So you know where the term or?
Well,
no,
I
know
like
what it means.
Like if you say that something is necessary being a necessity, but you're saying it's a contingent necessity, right? Like when you say contingent, are you referring to it in terms of like possible worlds, like modal logic?
I mean, sure. All I say is it only exists given a set of conditions. Those set of conditions there is like certainty, right? Well, and then if you're gonna say like the only way you could actually derive some like type of truthness independent of that is to say that certainty collapses or non-certainty collapses into some type of or just collapses a worldview, which you can't really derive that. So you're just gonna say God is dependent on a set of worlds that only have certainty. And then if we examine the amount of worlds that don't have certainty and contrary, this makes God pretty improbable.
Well, so the argument is that due to the fact that no worldviews are capable of having any form of certainty, then if we're capable of applying explanatory power to our worldview and actually applying a justification that does not lead to either solipsism or a contradiction, and it cannot be internally refuted in of itself, then that would be considered a worldview that holds a much higher coherence than anything else possible. So that would actually lead to a higher justification or a higher probability for anything to be the case within that worldview.
Well,
that's the entire point of the argument.
Well, the thing there is probability only works on the side of atheism. Like you don't really have like a probably less account of a necessity. Like you don't go to say.
Well, when I say prob, I didn't mean it like in like the analytical sense.
Okay.
Like when I say probability, I'm saying like the chance for something to just be true. Right.
Also, I'm kind of confused when you derive that. Well, there's no certainty exists. Like I already told you. Like let's say my existence, for example, right? Given my worldview, to deny my existence is just blatantly absurd, right? It would be a contradiction or circular, right?
Yeah, but you declaring it to be absurd, are you certain that it's absurd?
It's not circular.
I mean, you can identify that it's not circular. I mean, honestly, I could like really formulate how it's circular, but whatever.
Would you consider would you consider that belief being absurd? Are you certain of that?
Am I certain of that? Yeah, I mean, sure.
Like 100% certain.
100% certain. I'm 99% certain.
So then you're 100% certain then that you exist.
I'm 100% certain. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so then you do believe then that you have a 100% certainty that there is an identity or an external world.
I mean, you could say epistemically, sure, even independent of that, sure. But like, the thing there is like you're asking the epistemic question. Do I believe said thing? Like, we're talking about the truthness. Yeah, I have to exist for me to believe, right? Mm-hmm. And again, there's just trivial things there.
Well, in order to make truth claims, you have to already have a foundation in epistemology, don't you?
No, why would you? Okay, see, that's the thing. Like, when we say, let's say a truth claim, right? Something to be true. I don't know why I like need a foundation.
Because you're presupposing knowledge, aren't you?
I don't even know what that means to presuppose knowledge. So.
You're granting yourself that knowledge exists in order to make a truth claim.
Well, that's just analytically true given the content.
Yeah, but then that would obviously be presupposing that there's content in the that's the whole. It leads to that.
I feel like you're getting into what I'm doing in this sense, and not what the worldview is positing. And like, yeah, you could say my awareness of these things all you want, but it doesn't collapse the worldview. Like, you have to actually attack the worldview itself. You're just saying, are you certain? Are you aware of this? Do you have truth? Well, there's a world you have truth in itself is what you should be asking. And if you're going to say that, then you can't really give a contradiction because the only contradiction would be the epistemic awareness. So like say atheism. So if I say atheism or like a possible world with no humans, you'll say God can't exist in there because there's no minds, right? There is no foundation, or there's not a need for a foundation. So let's say a possible world.
I was just going to say that we do actually make the claim that it derives contradictions within the worldview anyway. If you hold to, for example, the inability to have certitude of anything, then when you make claims about anything whatsoever, you're contradicting your worldview.
Okay. So again, I feel like that's just going to the awareness. Like, do you have like a critique with the worldview itself, independent of the awareness, or like is it just going to be awareness? Like that's all that kind of substantiates.
No, it's not. It's not necessarily just your awareness of said thing. You admitted yourself that like that. So in order for something to be true, right? That's why I asked you earlier about the distinction between true knowledge and false knowledge. You said that you don't have the certitude to be able to determine those two things in a definite sense. And so with that being said, if I make any claim whatsoever about anything at all, you don't have the ability to show that, the certitude of anything that's said to anybody on this panel, actually. Nobody's capable of doing any of that.
That's not okay. So like when you say there's a certainty, right, or like what's the distinction between like something not or knowing something true or knowing something like false knowledge, right? When you say that, I'm kind of confused on how you're using it now, because before it just seems to be the case that we're talking about my epistemic awareness of a proposition that's true or false, right? And when I say there's no relevant distinction, I'm talking about, let's say like, I just need to give a distinction. Like when we're talking about overall, like let's say like empirical claims, yeah, there is no certainty there because like I agree the senses are false. But when we're talking about like metaphysical truths and logical truths, yeah, there are ways.
Yeah, but that's do you have certitude that logic is objective, for example?
You do even have a grounding for
again,
the laws of logic.
Do I have a grounding for the laws of logic? No, I don't need one.
So you grant them to yourself axiomatically.
Also, like I don't know what it means to, again, like for logic to be grounded. When we say we ground something, it's normally dealing for a proposition. I don't know what it means for the laws of logic to be grounded. I feel like that's just misusing logic in itself.
Sufficient reason for them.
Oh, so how do you have a sufficient reason for something that's not a proposition? Something that's non-propositional, what would be the sufficient reason?
As a conceptual entity?
A conceptual entity is going to be a sufficient reason for what?
No, I'm saying, no, you're just classifying these merely as propositions. We're saying that they're more than that.
No, I'm saying they're not propositions, right? That's the whole point. I'm saying, well, the reason you're trying to give the sufficient reason is exclusive of propositions.
Would you agree that they are conceptual entities?
I'm agnostic on that. I don't really know if they're conceptual. Like,
we need to define what they are in order to explain
I already kind of went through this stuff.
I forgot if they're formula. It's not formulas, but it's like some shit like logic like that. No, it's not formulas. Fuck. But yeah, well, they're not propositions. It's pretty much. I'll just use the word formula. So given a system, right?
Did the laws of logic exist prior to human minds?
Yeah, I would assume so.
And the laws of logic, are they conceptual?
Yeah, so given the relevant data I have, I would make the assumption. And the relevant data I have would just
be by induction.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, which I already presented a getter your case.
I mean, honestly, when you say like the laws of logic existed before humans, like I don't even know, like if you granted something existed before the humans, then I would just apply that.
Did the law of identity exist before?
We're kind of going backwards to like the beginning of the conversation. Let's get back to where we were.
Okay, I missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've already got through all of this. So, when you say you believe the laws of logic are concepts?
No, again.
So what are they then? Because I still try to figure that out.
You can just say they're formulas for a system.
They're formulas for a system?
Yeah.
Okay, and is the formula conceptual?
Is the formula conceptual? I don't know what I'm saying.
Okay, you said yeah.
Again, I don't know what it means for like them to be conceptual. Okay, so like when we say a formula being conceptual, what the fuck is he texting me? Okay. I don't know what it means for a formula to be conceptual in this sense. Like,
because you're using a set of, like, for example, propositions to make something be the case, right?
Yeah. Wait, you said I'm using something to be using something to proposition to.
Yeah, like a formula. You're making multiple different types of propositions to determine that something is the case.
I mean, given the system, not really, but you could say external to the system.
All right. What do you define formula as?
We could just say entities or rules for a system that allows the functionality.
Okay. And so when we are applying that to something to basically utilize the laws of logic, is that something that is conceptual?
Is that something conceptual? No.
Is that something? Is it so? That's also not concept. Okay. So then, what is it?
So and when you're asking is conceptual, are you just saying, are we doing it by a process of thinking or the process of mind?
Yeah. So the ability to do said thing, to apply formulas, to use the laws of logic, right? that capability in of itself. Those are concepts.
That capability in itself to you. Okay, so just to be clear, just saying for you to use the laws of logic, right? You use the mind or whatever.
I mean, we would say like because that's the thing is that the ability to use the laws of logic conceptually shows that the laws of logic themselves would then be conceptual and that we are grasping at them.
Okay, so like I don't think we like use them in that sense. Like when you look at a tree, you don't like automatically go, okay, well I have to identify that tree as that tree. It's just something intrinsic to the process.
Yeah, you'd be using the law of identity by saying it's a tree.
Yeah, but it's not something you're using, or not something in a conscious sense as like you're processing it. No, like yeah, it's just something that's just here with the cognitive process.
It's being used, yeah. So then if it's being used,
but that tree has its own, tree has its own ontology.
Like when you say subjective, I'm interpreting that as a conscious way of using something or thinking of something.
But there is an ontology to a tree, right?
There's ontology. And when you say sure, bro, there's a nature to a tree.
And there would be a distinct ontology to that of a rock, right?
There would be a distinct ontology to that of sure.
So there's an identity of what a tree is and a rock is, regardless of the semantics that we use to ascribe to these
what do you think
ontological entities.
Hold on. What do you take ontology to be there? What the hell?
Existence.
So when you think
existence, being.
Okay, so independent of the semantical entailment or the semantics of something, it exists independently of that?
Yeah. Semantics are posterior.
I wouldn't really sure, bro. Actually, in the intuitive sense, no. Outside of that, I would really have.
No, intuition wouldn't matter if we're talking about prior to humans.
Prior to humans, why would intuition matter?
I said it wouldn't matter because of the fact that it's prior to humans. Because intuition would be the utilization of our minds.
Hold on. Okay, well, if I'm gonna say it's just intuitive, right? I'm just say, well, given something independent of the intuition, I just wouldn't know, right? So again, it's gonna be something I've been consequent. But
you wouldn't. So then, in that case, when you declare that there's an ontology of the tree and an ontology of the rock, if there's no human beings to make that proposition, are you saying there is no ontological difference between a tree and a rock now?
There is an ontological difference. Like if you're just asking if there's an ontological difference, and then like is the ontological difference distinct from the or independent of the semantical entailment, then yeah, sure.
Yeah, and we discover these ontological realities of a tree or a rock, and then we ascribe a semantic title to it, right?
Off of the way we interpret it.
But it exists prior to all of that, right?
It exists we don't have any way of knowing. You could claim it though. Like if I look at a tree,
so it's just all arbitrary in your worldview.
Not necessarily. But like if I look at a tree, right, and I say, well, I see that tree. Okay, well that tree's there, and I go to say, well, before I existed, before anyone existed, right? Who's there to make the claim that that tree still exists? Again, you can make the claim.
Making the claim is not what we're saying. We're saying, is there an ontology prior to the human intellect?
Yeah, and I'm saying we have no way of knowing.
Okay, so then we're using a concept. We're using a concept to determine that there is an ontology.
We're using a concept to determine there's an ontology.
Yeah, the law of identity.
I just don't take the law of identity to be a concept. Like the functionality, you're saying the conscious functionality of it, sure. But it itself, no, it's not conceptual. I feel like that's just a misuse of what we agreed to.
Okay, so if somebody, for example, were to create a law about something in any way, shape, or form, all right, even if it includes science or if it includes something like philosophy in any way, shape, or form, like Leibniz's law, right, of indiscernibles. Right, do you hold to that?
No, I haven't heard of that. Leibniz law of indiscernibles?
Yeah. So it basically says that we know that two things are distinct from each other if they possess different properties.
Okay. And you're saying, and you're saying depending on or independent if it was created or not, we know it?
Yeah, the law. Yeah.
Independent if it was, I don't even know what it, so, okay, when you say that, I feel like, I'm not understanding there because are you saying created in the sense that some type of God created it or a sense of the linguistical description?
Well, in our view, the laws of logic are actually a reflection of God's mind. It's a reflection of the divine mind. It's called the logi. which is basically where it's actually showing the mapping of the universe, and it's something that we're grasping at. And so the laws of logic and reasoning and the ability to do any of these types of things are a representation of the way that divine ideas would work, divine concepts.
Okay, and so you would. Oh, okay, it's that argument. So you're just saying
The law of logic itself would be grounded in God's mind.
It would be grounded in God's mind.
He would be the one to generate the existence of said concept itself.
I mean, yeah, honestly, I just don't take it. I just don't know why. Okay, well, if we're just going to use that argument, I feel like you're just using more of a tag argument initially, but I feel like you're, okay.
No, my argument was actually going to lead more into MOA, if we continue.
MOA? Oh, modal, okay, yeah, I would just need an argument to why they're conceptual, honestly, since that's just dependency and foundation.
Well, so premise 2 is what you denied, which had nothing to do with it being conceptual at the time. I said logic, reasoning, intelligibility, and identity are not brute facts, but that they point to a necessary foundation for their existence.
Yeah, I don't know why they just point to that necessary foundation, but I mean, honestly, that's kind of not something to do.
Because if there is no necessary foundation for the law, then the laws aren't necessary.
What? Okay, that doesn't even make sense. Okay,
that does. That logically follows.
No, because then you're just proposing system K, but then you're just saying, then why can't we just say it's the system itself, or let's say it's just K or the K variable there? Why can't we just say the laws of the K variable?
Mm-hmm.
Like that wouldn't really make sense. And by the way, I feel like this is kind of like it's not relevant. I just need the argument why they're conceptual, since that's the whole point of the argument there, right? To say they're conceptual, and then conceptual things are dependent on mind.
Yeah. So the law itself, when we make the proposition of the law, the proposition states because the law itself is a proposition, right?
No. Yeah, that's why I was initially rejected. Yeah, I don't take like the laws of logic, for example, to be propositional, because like when we say a proposition, we just say a declarative statement that can be true or false. I don't even think it meets. I mean, you could say it meets a declarative stance of it. I mean, depending on how you use it, but I don't take the laws of logic to be true or false. Honestly,
you don't take the laws of logic to be true or false.
Yeah. So when we say true, right? Or when we just say true or false, we're just saying we have some type of like true fact, right? I just wouldn't know what it would mean for example, for it to be false and for it to be true in the sense, like something. I just wouldn't know what it would be. What it mean would it be for it to be true. Yeah. You could just say that.
So then, how can you use logic in general to try to make any form of propositions in any worldview, if you can't declare it as either true or false?
Yeah, so again, I feel like there's just an axiom of the thing we're using, or just anything we use. And when we say like it's true, we're giving it some type of state and some type of justification, but it just doesn't meet those criteria because it's just not something to be grounded, right? It's just something intrinsic to the things we use. Mm-hmm. Like I would just pose it's just an intrinsic fact of the things.
An intrinsic fact. Is it,
sure.
Yeah. But is something being a fact? Is that a concept?
Is that a concept? I mean, you could like conceptualize it itself, though. I wouldn't take a fact to be something conceptual in a sense.
Yeah, but how would you actually like proceed to something being a fact?
How would I proceed?
Because you're saying that it's simply something that's inherently a fact of something. And so I'm saying, how do we map so how do you map the usage of the laws of logic to that thing actually being the case?
Okay, like I feel like we're taking a jump, and I'm just saying there is no jump. You're taking the jump that the laws of logic are true or they exist, and then how do we know we're using them? Well, under my view,
how do we know we're actually doing them right?
Yeah, like under my view, it wouldn't be anything right or wrong, like I said, because there's no fallibility there. There's no wrong way to use the laws of logic. That just seems like grammatically structured wrong. It's like saying,
but like, how would you know that?
How would I know that? I mean, again, it just go into like just in something intrinsic. Like when we say,
but you don't know what's intrinsic to something.
I don't know what something is intrinsic to something.
You wouldn't know that.
Okay,
within your worldview, you would grant that you wouldn't have that certitude.
I feel like you're trying to apply a reason to all these things and then say there's a consequence, but there is no real consequence. I could have, like, I feel like you're saying,
yeah, you can make a bunch of stuff up. I mean, you can do that.
But like I feel like if something's not certain to you, yeah, if you're supposing if you don't have a foundation, you don't know anything, and I just don't see how that falls in itself. Like I could say I don't have a foundation for X scientific or like for this X theory, right? I don't have a foundation. It doesn't like decrease the likelihood at all. Like,
all scientific theories that exist have a foundation for why something is the case.
Yeah, we're just saying hypothetically.
I would say that's a false hypothetical. If there's no foundation for something, then it's entirely arbitrary and has no there's no reason for something to be the case.
Okay, so everything has a foundation to you?
Everything that's factual, yeah.
Everything that's factual. Give me an example of something that's factual to you.
Like for example, the speed of light.
The speed of light is factual?
Yes.
And you know that beyond reasonable doubt?
Yes.
Okay, how do you know that beyond reasonable doubt?
It's been materially measured.
It's been material. Okay, I don't think that substantiates anything there. I mean,
it would. Like you could, if we're talking about something empirical, there's nothing wrong with using an empirical method. I'd use a scientific method.
Well, yeah, I don't say that, but then you're going to take the jump to say it's beyond reasonable doubt, which goes to say it's 100%. But the way we use to determine these set things are fallible, which would be the cognitive processes. Like I can just literally just use like a reverse transcendental argument there to say, well, your worldview doesn't actually posit certainty in itself or empirical certainty.
No, we would, because we would say that certainty in of itself would be the necessity of an existence of God that grounds all that knowledge.
Yeah, but then that just seems like a question back there, because if I'm just going to say, right, well, the thing you use, right, is fallible, right, and then you're just going to say, though, this is God. Well, does God change the nature of that fallibility? Or does he just give you, well, okay, well, you're receiving this information right, but it just seems like
wait, whoa, repeat that?
Yeah, so, well, we're saying the fallibility of the cognitive processes, and we're saying, well, just using that, which you don't know that for certainty because the thing you're using is fallible in itself, right? It can be wrong. So to say it's certain is just to say that's a cert. But then you're going to say you have God there.
Something would be certain because it would have to be grounded in something that is necessary. And if the thing, because in our view, truth is a who.
Well, that's the question, Beck. Because again, you wouldn't know that because you wouldn't know that for sure.
I would know that because the certitude, I would actually have an explanatory power for all these things that I'm certain on.
Okay, but the way you interpret that in itself is going through those fallible processes. There isn't a gap you're able to reach here to say you have something certain because in itself the thing you're using is fallible.
Like what am I using that's fallible in that case?
The cognitive processes.
I mean, like I believe the cognitive processes are fallible in of themselves, but we also have a belief that there's more than just like the cognitive processes for something to be the case.
I mean, yeah, but we're talking about the interpretation there. We're talking about like your the world.
Yeah, there's different ways in which we would try to make the argument that something is true or not, depending on whatever the proposition is. Like if somebody makes the proposition that the Earth is flat, there would be specific methods in which we would actually show that to not be the case, right?
Yeah, but again, you're processing relevant sense data, right? And you're interpreting it in such a way. But the interpretation and the process there in itself can be fallible. You can get a wrong outcome, or the datum in itself.
You're presupposing that sense data is the only way that we can come to know these things.
No, yeah, we're talking about empirical facts because you gave me like the speed of light, for example. And how do you know something out? How do you know?
Okay, that's fine for this aspect of the argument, but that's ignoring the totality of our worldview.
Okay, yeah.
We were talking about something specific. I was just trying to address like.
Yeah, so like, so do you ground empirical claims to be? Well, you say you don't have certainty in empirical claims, right?
I'll recant honestly the way that I propose that. All right, so if we're talking about like, for example, the speed of light, at the end of the day, it is still a theory, right? And I would say honestly that something being more probably apt to this would be chemistry.
Chemistry, okay.
Utilizing chemistry, turning elements into other elements, for example.
Okay, and how do you know that the representation or what we're doing is accurate?
Compounds and other compounds.
Yeah, compounds and okay. Well, what if there's just some possible way, or no? What if there's just some way or possible scenario in which the way we're doing it is just, let's say, an outcome, right? It's an outcome, and then we have the correct outcome. How do you know we're going for the correct outcome? The compounds in itself doesn't suffice that. You need something that's axiomatic in front of your face that says your cognitive processes or the way you're interpreting the sense data is correct, right? And then you're going to say, well, you could say that's God, but then you're going to have to rely.
In order to be doing something in the correct manner, you would have to understand its telos.
Wait, hold on. You said to understand you're doing something in the correct manner, you have to understand it's what?
Telos.
Telos?
Yes.
Wait, what is telos?
Do you know what teleology is?
Oh, theology. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh my bad. I thought you were talking about something in chemistry, or well, technically. And you say you have to understand this. Okay, well, that's just getting into another epistemic problem. How do you know you understand this chemistry beyond, or not chemistry, like telos, beyond reasonable doubt?
Because it's been revealed to us.
Okay, and you're going to say it's been revealed to God by God, right?
Of course.
Okay, and how do you know that for certainty?
Through the impossibility of the contrary. This is the paradigmatic comparison argument that we were talking about earlier.
Saying, okay, the impossibility of the contrary. So, given, okay, well, what's the epistemic contradiction?
I already ran you through it. If there is a
I already told you what the epistemic contradiction would be within your worldview, at least.
No, because
you denied the certitude for something to be the case. So then, when you make a proposition about anything, you don't have the certitude for that to be the case, but you're making the case for something. That'd be a contradiction.
I'm just saying. I'm just giving you a internal critique with your worldview that would just put it. I'm just kind of. So I'm saying, given the facts we substantiate, I'm just reducing your worldview to the same thing. Like God in your worldview doesn't matter because you don't have certainty in the process. You could say,
but you're presupposing that certainty has to come from an axiom.
I'm presupposing certainty.
That's the whole issue. Like the internal critique is failing because you're imposing your worldview on our critique.
No,
like you're saying our justification process has to be the same as yours, or it's not a justification at all.
Well, no, I'm saying you can go to God, but everything that you're revealing to yourself has to go through the same process. I'm not saying in the sense exactly the justification.
You just did it again.
You just did it again, like quite literally.
Okay, okay, so yeah, given like a cognitive fact, every single justification has to be processed. Like I feel like that's not disagreeable there, right?
Yeah, but in the means in which that is processed and justified differs, and you're imposing your manner of how you come to that conclusion on us.
Let me see if I can type it out. All right. Look. In our view, so our argument is that all worldviews eventually lead to a uncertainty or the impossibility of knowledge in general. Right? That's one of the things that we argue for. Okay? And so, if we are capable of representing this, the impossibility of the contrary.
You mean all other worldviews, right? Not all worldviews, right?
Yeah. So if we're capable, I mean, obviously that's the claim that we would make for that. Through the impossibility of the contrary, then when we assert our position, you critiquing it, you're already uncertain from your own view, but you are asking for justification, right? But you're already uncertain in your own view. You're asking us to justify our worldview, but you're already uncertain of your own system. So then it doesn't follow, because you're critiquing us with your own worldview, which is false, based off it being impossible to gather knowledge in the first place.
Okay, well,
that's why he's saying that you're bleeding your worldview into ours. Because if we show you that you have an epistemic uncertainty, when you ask me, for example, this is a reductio. If we show you that knowledge is impossible in your worldview, and then you say, well, what's your argument for that thing to be the case? I could say unicorn Bob Jim, and that suffices to your worldview.
Okay, but you're going by JTB still. That's the problem there.
Yeah, and I hold the JTB.
I already told you the problem with JTB, and I feel like if you're going to say, if you're going to try to use, I already told you the problem.
Now you're admitting that you're not performing an internal critique.
No, because when he asked me for my definition of knowledge, I feel like that we were going by. But if we're going back to JTB, then yeah, sure, it'll be changed. But then I just don't really accept JTB. And then if we're finna go back to the internal critique, well, that has a dependency on what
you have to grant JTB to do a proper internal critique on our worldview.
I guess we were just like on a misunderstanding, because when he asked me for my definition and we continued there, I thought we were accepting my definition here and following
for talking about your worldview, absolutely. But if you want to critique our worldview, then obviously,
that's my bad, because I took the transition to your worldview. Okay,
You're fine.
that's my apologies on that one. Okay, well then I wouldn't be giving an internal critique in the sense. Then we just have to understand. Well, under JTB, right? Under JTB, I can grant you this in some fashion, but then I don't really just appeal to JTB, so it kind of just falls there in the sense, right? And then if we go back to the atheism thing, well then of course you have the dependency relation of JTB.
Huh?
So
So if you're going to critique,
I can grant I feel like here I can grant you the argument under JTB, but if I just don't prescribe to JTB, then the argument doesn't follow at all. Because
but what would be your reasoning for not subscribing to JTB?
Yeah, I already gave the contradiction with it, or I just gave you the circularity, right? So justify
give your argument again for that.
Okay, so justify true belief, right, for JTB. So let's say, it was just pretty much that JTB leads into infinitism, right? So to say, well, we have a fact, right, or something true. Well, we're saying that's synonymous with knowing is true first, right? So you have a fact, or you have whatever truth you want to say. Knowing that thing is true is synonymous with it being true in itself. Okay. Then we have to go to the justification part. Well, if we believe in some type of justification, we first believe it is true, or then you just wouldn't accept that would be knowledge of it. Okay, I get you that. But then we have to regress in justification for these facts, right? And then we just lead into just an infinite, regression and justification.
How is it an infinite regression if it's grounded in God?
I mean, the whole thing here is God. So if you're going to say, well, God is just a reason for JTB, I just don't even I feel like now you're relating God, or now you're just saying, well,
there is a final grounding for these things, and we know who God is because he has revealed himself to us.
Okay, well, I feel like to get into anywhere in the argument, we have to substantiate something that we have even grounds on. Now, of course, I'm not going to accept that, right? If you're going to say it's just reducible God, right? Because
to actually perform an internal critique, you would have to venture into our worldview.
Okay.
Grant the aspects of our worldview and see if it's actually consistent.
Okay, the thing there is, I'm just telling you the problem with JTB, and then you're just appealing to theism. I'm not saying I'm giving you an internal critique for theism right here. I'm just saying we have to understand the problem with JTB, and if you're just going to appeal to theism there, well, then that's just regression back to step one, right? We were on step 5, now we're just going back to step 1.
We already performed an internal critique on your worldview, and knowledge is impossible within it. So now we are positing a worldview where knowledge is not impossible, and you are still holding to your false worldview, where knowledge is impossible, to make knowledge claims about our worldview. Do you understand where the problem is there?
Okay, I feel like the only problem here is that you're going by JTB to make that critique, and if I just don't prescribe to JTB...
Your worldview can't give you knowledge, so why should we listen to anything? Why ought we listen to your critiques of our worldview?
Okay, I accepted your view. I mean, I accepted not JTB, remember? And then when you gave your definition of knowledge, I asked you to describe the definition or the distinction between false knowledge and true knowledge with your view, and you said you don't have a certitude of either.
Well, yeah, I already told you that. I already gave you the epistemic distinction. When we say, "Am I aware?" And then the other guy kind of butted in. I don't think he was going by JTB. I feel like that's the only consensus you have to be. I gave you a pretty relevant distinction there. But when he just said, when he just applied the certainty, the epistemic certainty, yeah. But so let's see. Let's just regress back to that then. Okay. Do I have a distinction between certainty or some type of truth? Or true knowledge and false knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, true knowledge under the view would just be something that leads into absurdity or contradiction, right?
False knowledge?
Yeah, and false knowledge was just false knowledge in the sense it's just something that's empirically fallible, right? I would just say,
you said true knowledge. Hold on, I just want to make sure maybe you misspoke. You said true knowledge is something that just leads into absurdity or what?
No, okay, true knowledge is the contrary, leading to absurdity, right? So this is the only available option. Let's say a dichotomy, and one can't happen. Mm-hmm. This is true. And then you could say, well, false knowledge there, could just be the opposite, honestly. Yeah, you could just say that. And then if we're talking about some type of empiricism or empirics, right? Then we would just lead into induction and just taking probability.
Yeah, and so then when I got into induction, I mentioned a Gettier case, right, regarding induction, would you still hold to the certainty of using induction to determine something to be the
Well,
case?
no. When I say when you say the certainty of using induction, are you saying absolute in induction? No, I don't ever grant induction is fully true. I grant we accept things, right, that are probabilistic. And when I say accept there, I'm just saying using for a well formed, like for let's say let's say just using it for example.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say that, I feel like you can't even. I mean, I'm not gonna say you can't, but there, I feel like the initial critique doesn't really work there. Just because we clear things up.
Well, I mean, because if we're talking about like using induction to deter, so do you claim then that you use induction to determine something to be true knowledge?
No. So the way I use induction for like day-to-day life, life issues, like not issues necessarily, but just day-to-day life. But like when we're talking about like metaphysical truths, right, and just things outside of that day-to-day normative usage, then well, you could say you use cross-examination, for example, or cross-examination or whatever.
Is cross-examination like, does that provide certitude?
Epistemically at least, yeah.
Okay, and give me an example of you cross-examining two things.
Okay, let's say we have two opposing theses. One posits a wall is white. The other posits a wall is blue. Cross-examining would be examining. So we would just say under the idea the wall is white, it posits two impossible things, right? And then, we'll go to the other, and we'll say it posits no impossibility. Well, the wall, and let's say the wall is white. The wall is either white or blue, or whatever the fuck the other color was, right? That's a dichotomy. In the cross-examination here is to say two of the other things can't happen, or one, right? Or there's just any inconsistency with the other, then we'll take the other, right? So if one has a inconsistency and blue doesn't, then I identify blue as true there. You could just say that. And inconsistency is just something internally that can happen.
And so would you use something in the empirical sense then to determine that the wall is a certain color?
In the empirical sense?
I mean, like, what are you using to determine the property?
The wall is white in the empirical sense?
I mean, like, would it be considered in the empirical sense, or would you go back to what you originally said you affirmed, saying that it would possess the property of blueness?
Well, when I use the empirical method there, it's just reliability and census, honestly. Or we could just say we could just give an intersubjective account, right? To say,
have you ever read Immanuel Kant before?
Immanuel Kant, I've heard of Immanuel Kant's metaphysics. Yeah, I've read his metaphysics things.
Have you ever read the critique? Have you ever read the Critique of Pure Reason?
Of Pure Reason, no.
So the thing. Yeah. So the thing about the Critique of Pure Reason, right? It attacks that exact thing that you're using, and it specifically states that when you're using, for example, empirical data to determine something to be the case, it doesn't actually map the reality of said thing with only pure reason, because pure reason is something that's entirely within your mind.
No, is this the what's it called? The objective world versus like
noumena versus phenomena.
Oh, yeah. So,
yeah. So you don't have the ability to you don't have an ability to create a bridge between noumena and phenomena.
Well, no, because I give the distinction there between these metaphysical truths and let's say the metaphysical truth, for example, and the empirical truth. The empirical truths are just probabilistic claims. That's what I just identified as empirical truth.
So everything, but the wall being a certain color, or the wall possessing the property of like blueness, for example, right? When you say that wall is blue, right? That would be considered phenomena. That'd be considered something that you are perceiving, or something that you are seeing in some way, shape, or form via the senses.
Yeah, that's something I believe I've seen.
Yeah. So then how would you map that to the actual noumena itself of the actual wall possessing blueness?
So independent of the perception?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, again, then we'll have to go under. We'll construct it, right? So we'll say first we have the intersubjective claim, right? So say, out of a set of 90 people, for example, 80 people see the same thing I see, right? That would be one, and then we'll say
consensus.
Damn, I lost my here. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's the first one would be consensus, and then the Second one is just reliability and census. The property, right? So we'll say, given, let's say, the property or whatever wavelength color that reacts to my eyes, right? Whatever that produces, or whatever we uphold it to produce, that's what I would believe there. So we'll have an intersubjective or consensus account, and then we'll just have something that we'll just reduce it, right? And then we reduce it, we will just see it's just emergent in a sense, for at least a color.
Yeah, but like your ability to go from perceiving something as blue and then determining it as an emergent property, that's the thing that you still haven't shown is possible.
When you say, wait, I feel like that's pretty evident, the possibility there.
I mean the certainty. Why would I grant that?
Oh, okay, so the possibility?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, honestly, I feel like that just regresses into just what's it called?
Dollops.
Just some type of modal semantics. No, I feel like that just regresses into modal semantics. Like, why is it possible that my semantic or my senses map onto reality? I feel like that's in like circular.
I'm not saying why it's possible. I'm more like saying like, what is your argument for mapping things onto the reality from your concept?
I mean, you could just say some type of evolutionary position, but I mean, for an evolutionary position that, we could just say we formed from the universe, right?
Is that what you affirm?
The justification you just gave, you wouldn't actually be able to critique like an ancient pagan who said like, obviously the rain god is why we have storms.
No, so there's a distinction. When I say evolutionary position, I say we form from something, right? And then it just seems reasonable to believe that we form from something, we have an intrinsic property of it, right? So for example, we could say a garden, for example. Let's say we grew some crops, right? We'll say something of those crops is the same as something of that garden, or the crops have something of the garden. And then it just seems unreasonable to say we evolved, right, from whatever, right? We could say we evolved from like just anything in the universe. Mm-hmm. And then it just seems like we don't have any relation, or we don't have any epistemic relation to the universe. And that just seems like completely absurd, because given the thesis before, we'll propose that we have something exact or something of the universe.
Yeah, so when you say, like, for example, that you formed from the universe, like, if that's what you're going to use as an argumentation for that, right? Like, what would be, like, when you say formed from the universe, what do you mean by that, man?
Yeah, so if we reduce, or we like, say, examine the de-evolution, let's say, of humans and minds, it's just going to reduce to something in the universe. And then the evolution there will just be the process we are at now from the whatever it was in the universe.
Yeah, but like when you mean evolution, are you referring to like us like gradually becoming humans?
Gradually becoming humans, or gradually just becoming who we are now. Let's just say that's human.
And so how do we actually know though that just because like that the evolution is not actually, for example, making it harder to make actual reasoning or distinctions?
Wait, okay, hold on. Wasn't this is this internal or external critique? I feel like we were crossing. Okay, whatever. You said, so how do we know that evolution isn't making it difficulter or like more difficult?
Yeah. I
mean, I feel like that's just like a weird position to offer up even then. And like when we say like under the atheist hypothesis, no one posits like some type of necessity there. So I wouldn't deny the possibility. Again, I just like we'll just reference.
Well, I mean, because like in the doctrine of evolution, right? Like you don't believe that there actually is some form of necessary cause or something that's actually causing evolution to occur, right?
In the sense as is there from the thing that causes us, no, but from the thing if we
there's no deterministic value to how you're evolving.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, given the content of the evolution, I would say it points to a particular way, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in a particular way. It just points to a set of things, right?
Yes, but the reason, like for example, the reasoning behind who we are, and why we are what we are, right? Like
why we are what we are. Yeah.
At the end of the day, that would reduce either to randomness or coincidence.
No, so I'll say the evolutionary processes. It just keeps reducing sets and sets and sets until we get to the exact thing. So, for example, if I don't know, let's say a tomato, or let's say just a random vegetable I'm growing, right? If it keeps developing in such a way, and there's identifiable properties that pertains it to a set, and it keeps going into one set, okay, let's say move to another set, and then we get the exact thing. Well, we would say the evolution points to something, right? Not in any like, let's say like mind way or like intentional way. It just points to something, how it was developed. Now, the developmental process itself, sure, you could say that's random, but but when you say it's absurd to say that, or not absurd, when you say how do we know it's not making it more difficult, I feel like the evolution pointed to sets that we pertain to now, right?
Mm-hmm. And so when we're talking about like the set becoming like a new set, right? When we're talking about like evolution.
No, I'm saying the entity developed from a set to another set.
Yes. Yeah. Cross speciation.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying though that you would say that there's an indeterminism to that.
There's I just would say we just wouldn't know in a sense. I mean, there could be, or I mean, yeah, of course there could be. I just wouldn't know in a sense. But I feel like even if there was, for example, it really wouldn't matter.
Mm. Well, so you wouldn't consider that a problem then?
I wouldn't consider it a problem towards it be deterministic or not deterministic.
Well, the ability. I mean, honestly, like conceding to the fact that it would be indeterminate.
Oh, no. Why? Why would it be a problem?
Because because you use like evolutionary capabilities as like, for example, a reasoning behind how we can come to the fact that something is true or false, like in a sense, right? I know that I reduced you like way down, but I'm just trying to keep it simplistic because we've been talking for a long time.
Okay.
But with that in a generic sense, right? If the evolution of you to be Brolus.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the evolution that caused Brolus to be Brolus is indeterminate, right? And you're using that as a reason to how you can determine yourself for something to be the case as part of it. I know that's not your entire paradigm in terms of this critique.
Okay.
But then that would lead to more uncertainty.
Oh, okay. Are you just saying, well, if it wasn't determined, then it's just leading to randomness?
Yes.
Well, then I feel like I don't really see a problem with that, because the whole point was that how do we know, or how do we have any reason to believe that our senses map one? And if we were, let's say like for the vegetable, if it was grew in, let's say, a garden, then we would assume, right, it has something of the garden, right? And I mean, honestly,
saying I don't see how something would just not be the case. I mean, can I do that too?
No, I'm just saying, well, it doesn't really defeat the point, because if it was deterministic or not deterministic, it would still grow in the garden. I mean, we would still have something of the garden, right? So regardless of how it determined or not determined, it doesn't really matter there, because the whole point is that it grew in a garden. We have something of the garden, so that's some reason to believe that it would map onto reality, right? It would map onto the thing it was growing. For example, yeah, you would have some type of well, let's say any vegetable, right? The vegetable would have some type of property that would warrant or point to that it was growing in a garden, right?
I mean, obviously that would be entirely based, though, in a worldview that you have, though, to make any of those claims, right?
It would be based in the worldview, sure.
Okay. So then when we're utilizing things like when we're talking about all this certainty and the ability to map things, like we've been talking about, map things from the concept of saying, like, for example, that thing is growing in the garden. I'm obviously conceptualizing something growing in the garden, right? And I'm witnessing something, and I'm conceptualizing said thing that I'm witnessing. I'm asking that how we can go from conceptualizing something existing to actually determining that it does in fact exist. Absent to me.
I mean, the claim isn't that I'm certain in these empirical claims, right? The whole claim there is that I have some type of reason to believe over the doubt that it does exist. It doesn't say there is no doubt. It just goes to say the strong reason to believe in something is over the doubt.
Yeah, but what determines something as a strong reason to believe versus a weak?
Yeah, I was just say a preponderance, honestly.
What?
A preponderance, like, so I'll say a preponderance of evidence. So let's say there's multiple things.
But how much evidence is necessary?
How much evidence is necessary? It depends on what we're referencing. Like, if we say, Like if we say let's give like a law case, for example. Let's say like a small case. It wouldn't take a lot. Like we could say like 3 to 5 reasons to believe in something, and contrary to 1 to maybe 2 reasons. It kind of depends on the chronological order of events there, right? But just generally, right? You would just say, if you want me to give a percentile, then I would just say anything over like the 65 to 60% more reason than not.
And would you say that that's something that would be considered an objective standard to determining something as a case?
No, I don't think that to be objective. I think take it to be normative, right? But no, I wouldn't accept that to be objective because everyone has a standard on how they accept things.
Okay, so then it's subjective.
Sure.
But determining truth is subjective in your worldview.
I mean, I give the distinction between the type of truths I'm talking about, but determining...
Yeah, but then the probability of said thing to be the case based off of the set of evidences is different.
Right? We're talking about
I mean, it could be honestly based off of anything. Like if we're talking about like metaphysical argumentation, like how many times can I make a syllogism that logically follows?
Well, okay, well that was for the empiric. So let's talk about for something like my existence, right? Well, for the existence there, I feel like everyone would have the same method, or yet the same true method. Now, epistemically, how they would interpret and understand could be distinct, but they all come to the same outcome through the same intuitive method. Not intuitive, but the same naturalistic method.
I mean, that obviously would be presupposing everybody uses things the same way, of course.
No, it would just presuppose everyone has something the same, right? And the said thing is they exist. And that's just, of course, trivial given the statement.
Yeah, cogito.
And when we say that...
Cogito.
Yeah, cogito ergo sum. And so, let's say, like, I think, therefore I exist. That's trivial. But that's just, like, a method to say you exist. But I feel like everyone has a objective method that's usable, right? And, you know, that could be that method, or that could be that method, right? Or you could just say, or it's just true that if you didn't exist, you wouldn't be able to probabilize it, right? Or, yeah, probabilize it.
Yeah, but it still leads to the other problem, though. If we go back to like the empirical, like when you're talking about the empirical stuff, that's the reason why I keep asking you, like, what we use to actually map the concepts that we're making on something or the phenomena to the things that are the nomina. And you made the claim yourself that you would use a set of evidences, right? But that set of evidences you admitted is subjective, and different people have different methods and different evidences and amounts of evidences that are necessary for that thing to actually be mapped onto reality properly. Yeah. There is no objective method in which you can map something onto reality.
Yeah, for empirical claim. Do you think I exist as an empirical claim?
I mean, like, I guess in a sense it would be, but not fully, no.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not fully an empirical claim, I prescribe it to
I would say that when you say I exist, you're implying something empirical, because when you say I think, that's senses.
I agree. The conjunct of it is, or not the conjunct, but yeah, I agree in a sense it is empirical. Like you're claiming something empirical to exist, but the thing in itself, right? To say I exist, right? I would say you could use any method, or I could say there is an objective method that can be used, right? And just to be clear, there is a distinction between something can being used, right, and being used, right? So it's like something objective cannot be used, or something objective cannot be used, for example, or not for example, but
yeah. So,
okay, yeah. So just be clear, there is an objective method to warrant claims like that, or identity claims and metaphysical claims.
Like what? Like the laws?
No, I wouldn't say the laws of logic are the things.
So what would we use to make metaphysical identity?
What would we use to make metaphysical identity?
Because you said maybe I misheard you, but if I didn't, correct me. Did you say that there are objective methods that we can use to determine things like identity?
Identities, not identity. Yeah, sure, not identity states. And what I mean, like, there's things we could use to determine identity. We could just, there's things we could use to, say that there's something is or something not, right? Things like that, a negation and positive claims like that.
Yes, but then determining something to exist external to yourself, right, would be using different methods for that thing to be the case, right? Because obviously there are the cases. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you'd have to. right? Because like if you're talking about like the validity of anything whatsoever to be external to yourself and not a hallucination, right? You'd use different things, like for example the consensus, right? Like I know I'm not hallucinating if I can point to both of my friends and be like, you seeing this shit? And they're like, yeah, I'm seeing this shit.
I mean, things. Yeah, so we use things external to myself to identify things like that. Sure.
You can make metaphysical claims based off of the fact that you've empirically verified something is not, you're not tripping.
No, not metaphor. What? No, because what?
Well, so like if everybody sees something with their eyes, would you make the metaphysical claim it exists?
Oh, I'll make the metaphysical claim there's something there, or there could be something there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then what would we use to map that of everybody seeing something in their perception phenomena to the thing actually being the case?
No, there's something. There could be something there. That's the verbiage I use. Now, it actually being there, that's the empirical claim. But yeah.
Well,
so
I mean, it actually being there is like it's stating that something obviously possesses a position in space time. If we're talking about the empirical method, right? But in order for something to possess a position in space time, it would have to exist, right?
It would have to. Okay, it would have to have the possibility of something existing, not itself. Because
what?
Yeah, so there will have to be something that could exist in said space, right? I'm not going to say now if we're saying there is like a definite fact that something takes up space, something has to be there to take up space, then yeah, right? Because then you're saying, well, then you're basing it off of all these, factual predicates.
Yeah.
So if we're saying that, then yeah, sure.
Yeah, so you'd map metaphysical truths from empirical claims.
Yeah, if there's a deductive basis, right?
A deductive basis.
And when I say deductive basis, I mean, yeah, I'm saying, well, predicated off of a set of facts, right? So like I just gave you, well, if let's say if the truth there is that something takes up space, right? For something to take up space, there has to be something there, right? Something took up space. Now, what it exactly is this thing. That would be a deductive foundation or basis, because we're going off of a set of facts to come to this conclusion.
Mm-hmm. I mean, going off of a set of facts, of course, and would these facts be mind dependent?
Would these facts be no? They're mind independent.
They're mind independent.
Yeah, because when we say
you'd have to be presupposing then that you already know what the actual reality that you're mapping to is.
No, we'll just have to know something. Oh, I mean, we'll have to know something about the reality. I mean, in this sense, because there's some. Okay, well, given that scenario, it's just indeterminable, because there's within this subjective reality and let's say the external world, we would know both things, right? Because there is something true of both, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, for let's say the external world, something exists in the external world, something exists in my subjective world, for example. That is true. So there's something is true of both worlds that we're able to use. That's why I say deductive, something that is exclusive, or something that is shared between both worlds.
Okay. Well, I've had you up here for about an hour and a half, so I'm going to go ahead and start moving on, man. I appreciate the convos, intellectual. Help me out. You should definitely come up here more.
Sure. Please.
Appreciate it.
Let me give you a follow.
Alrighty. That was cool. Sorry, I don't want to bore you guys all night with that. But it's already 10 o'clock here, and things are kind of winding down a little bit. So, basically, we talked about that guy's worldview and kind of showed a little bit of those issues, of course, with the way that he holds to things. And then, with that being said, the argument would then proceed into providing more, providing a reasoning behind why our system actually would be coherent. And obviously we didn't specifically get to that because he kind of just accepted solipsism in a way multiple times, which doesn't really get very far once somebody does that. That's kind of just the whole point of the worldview comparison in the first place, is that if somebody bites the bullet on things like that, not much further you can go. Right? Because they can kind of just, have a epistemic uncertainty for pretty much anything and not have to worry about it. That's
epistemic nihilists are the worst to debate with.
Mm-hmm. Like I know that he said he didn't affirm that, but that's definitely what it seemed like he affirmed.
That's the logical entailment of his worldview.
Yeah. And that's the entire point of the argument, right? But I'll kind of present this real quick, by the way, for anybody who was in here. They wanted to see how I'm using tag in a sense that leads into MOA. Because this actually helps out the analytical people that are spurgs about modal logic and allows them to actually understand tag as well. Without
MOA?
Modal ontological argument.
Okay.
So, premise 1 is that logic, reasoning, intelligibility, and identity are preconditions for knowledge. Obviously, we're holding to knowledge to be justified true belief here. And honestly, this still works even if somebody were to give a different definition of knowledge. Because I know that not everybody's going to accept JTB. There's different methods that people accept knowledge. Like if you hold to like Bayesian epistemology, your view of knowledge is pretty much the most probable thing, right? So like there's different views on like what was considered true knowledge and false knowledge. In JTB, of course, we don't believe that false knowledge exists. It would simply just be knowledge and information. Information can be false, knowledge cannot be. So, premise 2 is that logic, reasoning, intelligibility, and identity are not brute facts, but they point to a necessary foundation for their existence and coherence. The foundation must be a necessary, otherwise knowledge is impossible, as if the foundation for knowledge is contingent, then this relies on an infinite regress of necessity. And then from premise 1 to 2, if knowledge is possible, then a necessary foundation is implied. Premise 3, knowledge is possible. Premise 4, therefore it is possible that a necessary grounding exists, and this grounding can possibly be the Trinitarian God of Christianity. All right. And so usually if they end up denying that, you obviously would then proceed to the internal critique of them trying to show how the Trinity would have to be impossible, which if they cannot show the impossibility of said thing, then you've already grounded that there's some form of necessary reasoning behind logic, reasoning, all that kind of stuff in the first place. So they can't make a counter MOA argument where they say that it's possibility that God necessarily doesn't exist, but they've already granted the necessity in the first two premises. So there would be a necessary foundation for said thing. So if they deny, or if they try to run a counter MOA, then they would have to obviously provide the necessary grounding for knowledge. That's the cool part about it. Premise 4, therefore, it is possible that a necessary grounding exists, and this grounding can possibly be the Trinitarian God of Christianity. Premise 5 is the S5 axiom. If it is possible that the Trinity necessarily exists, and the Trinity necessarily exists, and the conclusion, then therefore the Trinitarian God exists. Boom. Tag and MOA put together.
I like that a lot.
Most people hold to the S5 axiom. They don't have a problem with holding to it. So if people hold to S5 and you actually make them affirm that there's a necessary foundation for logic, reasoning, rationality, things like that in the beginning, when we get to the S5 axiom, they may try to counter-distinguish or provide a counter-argument saying, I could just say that there's a world where God necessarily does not exist. That's usually the common refutation to the MOA. But if they were to propose something like that, they would obviously have to show a necessary foundation for logic and reasoning. Boom. Because they already granted it in premise 1 and 2.
I like that a lot. You talked to Joe about that?
This is more... I have not yet. I mean, I think I sent it to him in the moderator chat. But, Bryce...
Did you see the new channel that they made?
It just says admin?
No, I made that one.
Oh, okay.
It's at the very bottom of the Discord, and it's role limited.
Role limited?
Yep.
What does that mean?
Moderator, assistant moderator, knowledgeable, blessed for apologetics only.
Nice. That's a good one. So yeah. The tag compared with the tag and MOA put together makes it to where people can't create a counter MOA. Because like in the normal MOA, of course, the way that they would try to basically go around it, like I already said, I'm just kind of like prefacing this a little bit more. Actually, I'll kind of draw this for anybody who's still in here so they can understand it. Right, so S5 axiom, right, is that if something possibly necessarily exists, then it necessarily exists. because it's something that infinitely regresses into itself. Okay? If it's possible that there is something that is necessary, then it must actually exist. So, the way that most people will argue against MOA is they'll just counter the argument and just say, S5 axiom, if something possibly necessarily exists, you would say that it is possible that a necessary God exists, therefore it necessarily exists, right? And then somebody would counter that, saying, I could just say that it is possible that that it is necessary that God does not exist. Therefore, it is the case, right? Basically showing that it doesn't work. The reason why it doesn't work with the argument that I just provided is because if they say that, they have to provide the necessary grounding for knowledge because they granted it. Because the whole point is based off of actually holding to the necessary grounding for knowledge and then applying the S5 axiom afterwards.
Couldn't they just try to ground knowledge in the S5 axiom itself?
No, because then that would just be considered an infinite regress, and then you'd actually get into the tag argument itself of just actually showing that if you hold things into the axiom itself, there'd have to be a justification for the axiom itself. Right, so that's the thing, is that if somebody agrees that there's preconditions for all of the ability to use logic, reasoning, all that kind of stuff, you're granting logic on the premise that you're accepting there's a necessary foundation for it. Right, so then if they accept there's a necessary foundation for it, then you can go into modal logic and then use it.
Gotcha.
Be like, okay, so if there's a necessary foundation for logic, I'll grant you logic then. So now we use the S5 axiom. And then if they try to counter the argument and say, well, it's possible that God necessarily doesn't exist, I say, okay, fine. So what is the grounding then? And then now you can do the internal critique as tag normally would be. Because now they have to provide a grounding or a foundation.
Now you gotta flex like your Plato.
Yeah, for real. I'm probably gonna hop in JB's Discord for a little bit. Kind of tired.
Okay. Yeah.
But appreciate the stream, guys. It was really good today. Oh, Hannah's kind of come up here first. Oh, no, she's not. She disconnected immediately. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna hop in the Discord for a little bit, and then I'll end it later on. Oh, accident. Okay. Well, honey, if you want to join too, you can. I'm just gonna join in JB's Discord for a little bit and hang out. Appreciate the stream today. There was plenty of good talks. It wasn't ridiculously stupid, and we watched a Jew absolutely lose his mind with the biblical goat Lewis. So,
Oy vey!
Good convo.